For a while. So, good evening, everybody. Let's just make sure that we're ready to go and have our encoding options, which we do. And I'm not quite ready to close the browser yet because it is Industries of Titan update day, or I suppose yesterday was the update day, Titan Tuesday. But we stream on Wednesday, so we're ready for a belated experience. And as always, Brace Yourself Games has a remarkably talented, remarkably talented everything, but they do have a very good, they have a very strong team doing trailers. And it is, in fact, one of their, I don't know, I'd say competitive edges, because it is something that they often talk about, and they in fact have a series on their Twitch channel and their YouTube channel. So, and I've actually gotten to the habit now of saving these trailers so that I can watch them all with you. So, without further ado, let's see what's in store for Update 15, The Tech Tree.
Hi, founders. This is Maddie Gray, Senior Community Manager on Industries of Titan. October's new features are the Tech Tree and the Science Lab building. So let's get to it. To get to your Tech Tree, you'll need to construct a Science Lab. Then you can assign employees to research ancient technologies. The more employees you have working in your science labs, the more efficient you will be at researching the technologies. You'll begin with a limited number of nodes you can research, and you'll need to unlock connections using artifacts to discover more nodes. Once you have access to a node, you can begin research. Research takes time, but employees in your science labs will speed up the process. There are different types of categories for research, including military, industrial, science, and council technologies. This is just the beginning of our Tech Tree's development. In the future, we'll add countless new technologies, new types of nodes, and different ways to explore the Tech Tree. These exciting new updates, as well as bug fixes and optimizations, will arrive for all players on Titan Tuesday, October 5th, 2021. You can always find updates from us on the first Tuesday of every month. Expect more to come in our November update, when we'll be releasing some additional touches to this update's features and a ton of quality of life improvements. Thanks for watching, Founder.
I forgot that they've switched to a more a more sort of I don't want to say more informative, because that implies that the previous videos were not informative, but I forgot that they have switched to this sort of introducing the features approach. And I know, as the community manager, Maddie is the one who I kind of interface with quite a bit as a broadcaster. But man, that delivery was really good. And I'm probably going to find out that it's like, oh yeah, it was all done in one take. It was like the first time I tried to do that. No, that was really good. The Tech Tree looks really cool, and this is why I was looking forward to this update. Because I'm already geeking out about the game, maybe now is not the bad time to mention, I was, of course, given a copy of the key for promotional purposes. This is back when the game was on Epic. I'm actually still playing my Epic version. But, I normally save that for when I'm actually inside of the game, but this has been an update that's been coming. Hey, brace yourself. I don't know if I'm assuming it's Maddie. You did a really great job with that opening video. I don't know if you've done narration before, but I was like, oh man, this is excellent. I think you did a wonderful job with this. So, but yeah, so I was actually just saying, because you seem to have this bottomless well of talents, I was going to find, I was like, oh yeah, I just kind of knocked it out first try in a booth, and they seemed happy. So, then I just went on with the rest of my day. But no, that was wonderful. But yeah, so of course we see Brace Yourself inside of the channel. I am, of course, eternally grateful for being given a copy of the game to promote it. There are a bunch of very cool people to hang out with in their Discord, as well as just otherwise interact with on Twitter and such. So I'd like to say that the enthusiasm is genuine, but we do live in the age in which plenty of companies want to kind of get that organic attention, and will do so sort of through the exchange of things of value. So As always, it's important to say that stuff up front. I'm not so cheap that Brace Yourself can buy me. I actually just willingly gave myself away. But with that in mind, we've been building up to the tech tree. I think probably the last 2 updates sort of brought us to the path towards this area here. And from the video, I was actually really, intrigued. So let's roll this up a little bit so we can maybe make it a little bit clearer for everybody else. So, patch highlights. Tech tree. Research ancient technologies in your new tech tree. New building. Build a science lab to enable researching. New ship device. Build a reinforcement pillar to increase ship HP. I'm intrigued in where this one's going to wind up going. And building blueprints. You can build factories with blueprints now, and more. Now, I'm curious if I'm going to actually use the blueprints or if I'm just going to stay set in my ways and I'm like, this is how I learned Titan and I'm going to build them block by block. We'll see. Industries of Titan is in early access, which means that we are actively updating and adding new content based on our roadmap and your wonderful feedback. You can expect the next Titan Tuesday update on November 2nd, 2021. See the full patch notes below, and that is exactly what we're going to do. Changes as of 0.18.0, and as always, the little Saturn indicates changes due to community feedback. New feature, Tech Tree, randomly generated at the start of each new game. Now, I suppose if it's randomly generated, we can call it a random forest. The data nerds, of which there's maybe half of one, will laugh at that. Randomly generated at the start of each new game. Unlock new research options with artifacts. Each new bridge unlocked reveals more of the tech tree. 29 unique techs to discover, with more to come. And techs can unlock stat boosts, buildings, and devices. I'm intrigued by the buildings, although I suppose there's the potential that those buildings might be in the more to come, but we'll see. New building, Science Lab. Research new technologies in the Science Lab. Additional employees assigned to higher-level science labs will increase the speed that research is completed. Connecting a science lab will increase the efficiency of each employee working inside. New device, Reinforcement Pillar, can be unlocked from the tech tree. Each pillar adds 2 extra HP to the ship it is in. Oh, right. Okay, so the pillar is not an external building. It's something you can put inside the ship. That makes a whole lot more sense than what I was imagining. Building blueprints, and of course this is big. I'm wondering if there's a possible way to make the Saturn even bigger, because I feel like this is one that people have been talking about a lot. Building blueprints. You asked for it. We delivered. They delivered, but I'm reading it as written. Buildings can now have blueprints that you can save, just like with ships. Like with ship blueprints, please note that you will need all your resources up front to be able to use a building blueprint. Increase the number of blueprint slots available. Important note, because we have placed some devices in the tech tree, namely on ships, blueprints using those devices will not always be available for use until you've managed to unlock the device in the tech tree of the game that you're currently playing. We are currently brainstorming ways to solve this design oversight. Balance updates. Some buildings, devices, and ships are now unlocked through the tech tree. If you have already unlocked any of these types in a previous save, they will still be available to build when updating to the new patch. Buildings, air purifier, industrial fan, and council obelisk. Ooh. So all of the pollution mitigation. Interesting. Devices, shields, regular and automatic, and the reinforcement pillar. The funny thing is I very rarely build any of those. And it looks like they've locked away some ships as well. So the Corvus SZ-73, the Heron OP-3911, the Kestrel KL-299, Caracas T-64, and the Kunter ET-3728. I have to assume that these numbers probably mean something. The Kestrel, I'm going to guess, is an FTL reference. But what's another one you could put? The TI-81, in honor of the expensive graphing calculator we all needed to buy for exactly one class in college and never use again. They do in-universe mean anything. Hey, ascending order. Oh, goodness. This is what I get for talking about the game stuff with people working on it inside inside of the chat. It's like I get to my idle speculations suddenly become confirmed. Great to see you again. Obsidian Ruin influence cost has been reduced. Artifact influence cost has been increased. Inert ruins spawn more frequently. Oh, hang on. So artifact influence cost has been increased. So is the idea here that in order to... Well, no, because the influence for a plot is the same for the level. I wonder what they mean by an artifact influence. We'll see it when we get into the game. Inert ruins spawn more frequently further away from the starting area. Okay, that makes sense, actually, because I think we've had a couple of games where the inert ruins have not just spawned, close to our base. They've actually been within our original block, I seem to remember, like our starting claimed area. So I think that one makes a lot of sense. Increased minimum artifacts and artifact patches. Oh, right. That's right. There is an artifact patch. So maybe that's what that's referring to. Minimum influence cap from Monument Research Center reduced from 200 to 100. This now increases influence gained equal to 2 council obelisks. Miscellaneous influence gain rate is now displayed as a decimal value. Oh, interesting. Codex is now available from the pause menu in game. Ah, wonderful. I think I have said a couple of times, it's like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have the codex in the pause menu? Now we have it, which means we get to see more of the wonderful things. The thing I like about it is that when we run into something in game, it means that I'm able to refer to the lore or the background on it a little bit easier. So from a broadcasting point of view, it's not as much of an interruption to be able to refer to some of the cool writing in it. And the fixes are relatively short here, so I don't need to kind of try and motor mouth through it. So fixes as of 0.18.0, Rebel defense ships can no longer target player ships that are docked in shipyards. Command area not properly refreshing after an HQ was upgraded. Influence being gained twice when donating minerals or isotopes to the council. I didn't know we could do that, but I should have exploited it at the time. Device category and ship view not displaying correctly. Smokestacks not showing smoke after loading. Removed the rebuild option from player-owned destroyed rebel buildings and cannot salvage destroyed buildings outside of the player's command area. With all that in mind, we are now ready to hop on a ship to Titan. Or we will as soon as I close out Chrome. Also, I don't know how much I should let on, but I suppose those who should hear will hear. I got a very nice invitation to something that was unexpected recently. And now, especially because work has been bugging me to take vacation time, I'm like, I wonder if I can swing this.
Titan.
But thank you very much.
Comes to
That really
Titan
made my
with
day.
a dream. Our moon is one of limitless wealth. There are ancient riches here for those with the strength to claim them. But some dreams start smaller.
Oh my goodness, all of you.
A better life, more dignity, more comfort. Today, Titan is a place where you can buy those dreams, where anyone can profit. But it isn't easy. You have to prove yourself here. Those who settle here take that risk. And without their diligent labor, our power grid would fail. Pollution would overwhelm us. And our trade would collapse. It's hard work, but on Titan, hard work isn't enough. The bold, the strong, those are the people Titan rewards. Those are the ones who see their dreams through. Exceptional people. Friends to the Council. That is why we're giving you this opportunity, Founder. We expect great things from you. Make sure you live up to our expectations.
So sorry, I don't like talking over that really cool opening cinematic. But first of all, hello, Packy Perfect. And yeah, so to give you an idea of how serious I took it. So the thing is, I there's an RSVP which I want to do as quickly as possible. So I'm currently at the moment of like trying to work out how practical it is, and I think I have a one-on-one with my manager on Friday, just to see whether or not I can swing it. But one of the things, this of course is completely irrelevant to the stream, but I have not shaved since we were told to work from home. And so I essentially look like some kind of a villain in an overwrought Tom Clancy, novel about eco-terrorists or something like that. And as soon as I saw that, the first thing I thought was like, oh, well, I guess I have a reason to shave now. Although, I suppose if I'm meeting people for the first time, I should like just be sitting beneath this disaster of a, I don't know, mad philosopher kind of a look. So that way, the second time I meet people, it'll be like meeting them for the first time, because nobody will really know what I look like. Rip Van Winkle costume, yeah. Yeah, the plan was to actually just scare the hell out of my coworkers when I got to see them for the first time since the pandemic. But anyways, so yeah, we were talking about why this was such an exciting update. It's basically there have been a number of updates. Sort of, it feels like they were building towards this tech tree. This looks like a very cool way of doing the tech tree, so I'm eager to jump into it. And then coming soon, another quality of life update. So smokestacks and mines refactor, load game from the pause menu, full-time jobs UI, research panel for the tech tree advisor and tutorial, more nodes for the tech tree, snow and sandstorms, coinciding with the release of Dune. I don't think that's the reason, but Gatling gun defense, pylon and zethane or zethane, inert ruins. And I don't know if there's been any more changes. I guess Council and Spaceport interactions might have got added and for the planned future updates. Anyways, update without rhythm. All right, I'm going to do a normal. I've had some fun with hard, and at some point I should probably try Titan. And, oh, by the way, so I don't remember, I feel I particularly owe... So, special thank you to Brace Yourself for holding my hand through it, and Packy Perfect, no doubt, for what I'm going to guess was probably a lot of work to get this aligned. A few updates ago, I did get the option to reconnect my Epic account, and I tremendously appreciated that. I've noticed for whatever reason I still don't seem to see the entries, but I think the last I saw on the Discord was that wasn't necessarily unique. I mean, I might have been looking at an old message, but I was really happy that I could get the option for time contracts, which we would do right now, except for the fact that I really want to see what the tech tree is like. So we're going to jump in. Landfallers. As the Titan Gold Rush ramped up, many startups and corporations from Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt have scrambled to snap up ruin-rich land and start their own urban businesses. The Landfallers faction is a swirling, leaderless group of striving hopefuls from across the system. They're people who dreamed big and have probably tasted failure. They also share a common hyper-capitalist culture. Landfallers are motivated by their perilous position and the powerful rewards of success. Every once in a while, these ventures can be incredibly successful. A few are already on their way to becoming full-fledged factions on Titan. Will you be the one who leads them to system dominance? All dominance is system dominance on this channel. So, we've got the standard investment, ruthless opportunity, rugged venture, tranquil trailblazing, and chemical enterprise. Now, I think we did rugged venture last time, so either I'm somewhat inclined towards tranquil trailblazing or chemical enterprise for the novelty. Or did we do chemical enterprise last time? I can't remember. You know what? I bet if I take a look at the save file, Svesser Alliance, Oh my goodness, did I not finish this? I guess I didn't. I was meaning to do it on another day. What a bonehead. Okay, well, this was Ruthless Opportunity. Sorry, I was getting all worked up to like read all this stuff. Tranquil Trailblazing or Chemical Enterprise. So, I mean, this I would presume is a little bit more easygoing. Normal resources, very low rocks, very high lakes, low crevices, or crevasses, if I want to refer to old Twitch broadcasts. Low rebel camps, frequent rain, no snow. Or Chemical Enterprise, normal resources, very low rocks, no lakes, very high crevices, high rebel camps, no rain or snow. I'm pretty sure we've done Chemical Enterprise before. Let's try Tranquil Trailblazing. This might be... Alright, the Lake-rich area has resulted in few places for rebel camps to spring up. Excellent for companies who aren't cut out for cutthroat combat. Alright, we are the Nair or Nair Trust. Do you have a bank-looking... I'm actually quite fond of this one. So I'm thinking, you know, Roman columns... I guess we got an Art Deco bank here. This looks a little bit like a bank logo I've seen in the real world. That's column-like. I think I'll skip the tutorials this time around, but we will add them on the next one because it'll deal with the new research, or at least as promised in the update. And away we go. Thanks to the high demand for custom ship designs, aeronautical engineers are one of Titan's most prestigious careers. They are followed closely by test pilots, though given the high mortality rate, it is difficult to call that role a career. Cool. All right. Oops. Let's get to it then. We'll take a look at some of the special items that we get in the area. Now, I suppose if I wanted to be a little more efficient, I would probably... Yeah, let's check it out. I'd probably start with the level 1s first, seeing as I don't normally take out level 2 and 3 until sort of well into the playthrough, but I'll just do it in a nice circle and call it. I should also say I normally like to kind of click on stuff on the screen so everyone can see what I'm doing, but I'm taking advantage of sort of the hotkeys here. I'm pressing V for the survey. And then one thing I like to do at the start for the ruins is right now surveying is the most important job. I'm probably going to want to salvage the things that are close to HQ, so I'm just going to move that so that they'll interrupt their surveys in order to acquire resources when I tell them to. Excuse me. Let's grab the artifacts. Looks like we don't have a whole lot in the immediate area. And one thing that happened a few updates ago was life got a little more difficult for me as far as how I do storage containers. So there's not a whole lot of storage that you start off with, but it's also true that you, like it's more costly to, or maybe it's not. Actually, yeah, I guess the cost of this did go up at some point. Anyways, because it basically you need to build a large storage container out of sort of refined resources, ideally, like it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to spend 25 minerals just to build a tier 1 minerals to build a storage container. I usually kind of wind up having to sort of leave, leave spaces for them. Generally, I think this is a good idea as a whole, because what it does is, you'll notice my tendencies are to sort of build very long term, and I wind up skipping sort of the small versions of a lot of things. And so that price change has sort of caused me to behave in a way that's, I think, a little more consistent with... Oh, I completely forgot. It's not enough for me to do the survey. I also have to do the extract. And I suppose I should move at least one person towards the minerals. Anyways, we're a bit lucky here in that we do have access to a crevice, so that means power-wise we should get a fuel turbine right away. That, of course, also implies an energy plant. Now, we're nowhere near being able to work with those. And then the question is, am I willing to go without kind of paying my workers for a little bit? And if so, that means I just keep buying up as many additional upgrades as I can. And if I'm not willing to go for those... Wait a minute, I thought the smokestack was something you had to research. Maybe I was mistaken. It is tempting to go for the early science lab. What does it cost, though? 300 minerals... will probably be off the ground in time. Well, I mean, that's true for all of this stuff, though. So yeah, let's buy the science lab, and I think in this case we're going to go without... then we're going to go without paying our workers for a little while. So let's buy a shipyard. I'm going to try that approach where I sort of impose on myself a more fleet-based approach to defense. I think that's going to make me a little bit better at ship combat than I have been before. So I got 35 influence to work with. Let's find the richest mineral patch. One of the reasons I like working at least one mineral patch is because a problem that I run into is a lot of idle workers over time. And so one thing that's nice is if I can get at least one worker working on each type of patch, it'll sort of make sure that I'm basically that I'm not running into the problem of them kind of being at loose ends. The other thing I think I'm going to do with my influence is just pick up the obvious claims that I can. Although right now I'm short on short on space. So I think I'm going to regret it if I put the generator here. So let's put it up there. And then I got to build the relay and the energy bridge. Now, ideally, one thing that is a little difficult to deal with right now is that, like, imagine you wanted to, like, place blueprints or do I have that? No, it doesn't work. I kind of have to remember how big the large generator is. Now, I've built this enough times that I'm pretty sure I got to put, like, the energy bridge and the relay here. But it's just one of those things that I can potentially get wrong, and as a result, just have an embarrassing rebuild that I need to do. And I can never remember if I need to put the... Well, here I have to put the relay down no matter what, otherwise it's not going to reach this generator. I may have to switch their positions for my later designs, though. Either way, though, we're on our way. Okay, they're really stocking up on the... Oops. Really stocking up on the resources, so let's say... I need that for the fuel. Well, I'd also have to dismantle this for the fuel turbine, so... Let's try not to get too crazy with it, though. Okay, I'll also start with a oh yeah, I gotta... Waste receptacles are going to be tricky. Let's stick them in the corner for now. Okay, so what I want to try and do now is basically get a office building up and get that refining underway if I can. So let's see. First of all, is there a natural place for me to put... So I suppose one consideration I have is that if I want to be building something like a residential area, somewhere around here couldn't hurt. If you take a look at the... I think this tells me my livability. So, livability close to headquarters. The council hall and the spaceport will generate negative livability. I don't think they're currently showing that. And then, of course, we'll have pollution from the isotopes, and nobody really wants to be breathing in zethane. So I suppose the ideal would be to sort of have a housing and work environment up here, which admittedly is not, there's not a lot of space. So I shouldn't kind of bank on getting too much out of that. But one thing that would be kind of nice would be for me to try and build around that sort of a plan. Now, one big mess up that I did was I have been building all of these storage containers, but I didn't bother to specify that I should be collecting some isotopes. This one's going to be for isotopes only, and I'm going to eventually sort of undo all of this, but I think for now let's just store all the stuff we want and need. Okay, once we've got the isotopes, we can start building a factory. I usually like to double those up, and I suppose the question is, which of these do I want to be production-oriented, and which of these do I want to be worker-oriented? I suppose the worker-oriented one can go here, because that's where the civilians will go, whereas the production-oriented one can be on this end. Okay, so we've got 4 isotopes. It may not hurt for me to wait on the influence. I think we need 40 for an isotopes patch. Alternatively, we can sacrifice some of our waste in order to claim one of these. This is the nice thing about playing a low rebel... oh, this is a good one, actually. It's only 1 isotope, but lots of resources with no waste cost. And this is... wow, really good storage. Cool. And it's beside the council hall, so if the rebels blow it up, it's not my problem. It's the boss's problem. Alright. So the artifact anomaly, I think that's a little more aspirational. We should probably be working on some more... oh, sorry, I forgot the other inert ruins. Sensor range of 8. Okay. Let's get the factory down. So this is going to be the production-oriented one. I also need to spend... so I need to spend the isotope on the energy pylon, and then I need to figure out where my next set of isotopes are going to come from, because I can't connect the factory without them. So this will get me 3, 6, but it costs me 20, 1... this doesn't have waste, so I'm going to cry doing it, but this is the right call. So that'll keep me in isotopes, both for expanding the factory as well as building the energy pylon. Technically, I don't need to build both factories at the same time. The main reason why I do it is that if I tend to find if I hook up the factory at the, later on, sometimes the building layout's going to be a little bit different than what it's going to be a little bit different than what I had planned, and I don't know if that's still inside the game, but it's a bit of a costly mistake to try and fix. So I generally just double up the factory and move on with my life. Again, I don't like seeing that employee management. So another question that I might ask of myself is like, okay, so you have to make certain decisions in terms of what you're building at any given time. Why am I deciding to build a production center over a, sort of a work from home arrangement? The main reason why I build this kind of a factory first is I pretty much always have this problem of idle workers, and so my inclination is usually to do something to try and keep those workers busy. Whereas if I build the work from home office, some abusive terminology there, I suppose. I am also committing to spending artifacts to unlock the spaceport. I, have a game plan in terms of how I'm going to get all of the materials to build up the living space and the working space. And I don't actually think it's all that credible of a plan. So in this case here, gaining the ability to refine my resources is to me, that's kind of one of my first jobs. Olaf, thank you very much for the host. How you doing tonight? I'm sure it is no surprise to you that the great and glorious Industries of Titan has a new update, and so I'm actually going to be spending some quality time with it because it seems like I got rather unlucky in terms of the time that I had available to stream the last update. I was actually just thinking of that the other day. I was like, it feels like I didn't play a whole lot of Titan over the last month, and it turns out that was true. You're here for Arc? That's my bit. You gotta... Although I suppose if you were to start bugging me about playing Command Modern Operations as much as I bug Miss Ariella, the danger is that I would actually take someone up on that issue. Looking forward to seeing what's in the update. Well, good news for you. We have unlocked the science lab already. Welcome, Glum, fourth of their name. Yeah, we've already unlocked the science lab, although I do need to refine my resources to to get where we want to go. I also probably need to start taking notes of which of these starts I've done. It's because I kind of like to give time to all of them. Anyways, we are drowning in minerals, so this shouldn't be too much of a problem. I do think I'm going to run into some power problems, though. But that's a tomorrow me problem to think of. So here's our employee module. Waste module. I should probably put some kind of a gesture towards waste management here. Vern will be happy. Oh, actually, this is one thing that surprised me. I think it was on the Industries of Titan on the Twitter account. There was a description of Vern which made him sound so much more sinister than I kind of imagined him. Oh, hang on. I think I need to do this the other way around. I always kind of assume, I think I've said this before, that Einar always sounds disappointed in me because I'm a bad employee, whereas Vern always sounds disappointed in me because I'm a bad person. But in fact, because we have access to the codex inside of the pause menu, new feature, let's see what the description of Vern. Vern Skull, faction Landfaller, position Waste Management Officer. I think that's a bit reductive, personally, but... Origin Mars biography. Vern is a chemist who got into waste management to make money and grew utterly fascinated by the threat, danger, and potential, creative uses of industrial waste. Awkward and dry-humored, he wants you to incorporate his strange and dangerous ideas into your city system. You know what? That's probably just the mood I was reading in it at the time. Strange and dangerous. It was the strange and dangerous ideas, especially because it had the yellow text. I was like, oh, this is like the Mengele of Mars or something. But it's like, no. It's, he's just really enthusiastic about waste management. But yeah, the strange and dangerous made him sound really menacing to me for some reason. But I'm assuming deep down there's an absolute sweetie underneath. I don't really need this right now, so let's not waste it. Some of his ideas are questionable for sure. I don't want to abuse the privilege of having a writer in the channel, but do we get to learn a little bit more about these ideas at some point, or is that still Is that ongoing negotiations? Excellent. All right. Yeah, I pretty much always need to say that stuff afterwards. It's like when it's released. All right. All of a sudden, I'm not feeling like I had as many minerals as I did before, so I need to find a new source. Well, we've got a source from this mineral patch over here. If I've got a quick little 10 I can use, that'll get me through. Now, we only have a surplus of 3. We also don't have any batteries. That is more or less by choice. But it is going to be inconvenient in the sense that I'm going to need to find a better way of powering all this stuff. So I might even start putting I might even put some surplus generators on the floor. Okay, so this, I'm going to try and impose some order as far as the resources go. So oddly enough, there is a bit of a premium on upgrading the isotopes just because it is really helpful when building a factory. If I can have like a tier 2 instead of 2 tier 1s, that just makes those really precious isotopes go a bit further at the start. I always do start with the mineral work first, but will I shut down? Yeah, I can't shut any of this down, and still keep going. So, oh, this is a chance for me to start freeing up a little more space. So what I'm trying to do is reclaim this territory so that I can upgrade the fuel fabricator to a large one, and then of course we'll build a large generator when the time comes. Actually, while I'm at it, let's also start reclaiming some of our... that made a mess, but obviously that'll all wind up going in this receptacle. So what's it going to cost me for a small generator? Just one more. One thing I've noticed as well, because of some of these things like the artifact anomaly or the relative cost of isotope patches, those are probably the most likely thing to make me want to trade away artifacts for the council communications. Or sorry, for the council hall. So if you look at it this way, right, artifacts are 18. I think it's 20 to trade for an artifact. I'll find it out. I'll find it out a bit later. But obviously the ability to get those 18 artifacts as soon as possible is worth quite a bit, versus just sort of sitting, putting your whole enterprise on hold, waiting for them to get pulled out of the ground. So again, this is it's one of these things that when the game first came out on Steam, there was a lot of feedback for the game, and generally, like, as much as I really like this game, and I kind of get my shoulders up a little bit whenever I see somebody like saying the game is anything less than perfect. One of the big benefits, of course, is that people giving that fresh perspective overall will make a better game, because of course we have faith that Brace Yourself is going to be able to discern what is useful feedback and what might be, off the mark. But one of the things that was so interesting was how a lot of the comments also sort of seemed to be about things that were like clearly only partly implemented. So I mean, like, I think they ultimately changed how the storage wound up working, but I know there was there seemed to be a lot of comments about the idea that the way storage was done was inefficient. But of course, if you say that storage is inefficient in the current form, well, right now you're able to take a whole bunch of single storage containers. Like I could do a 3x3 grid, and people are actually going to use this one in the middle, I think anyway. Whereas presumably in the finished version, you are not going to be able to get, your cartoon like Dalsim is not going to come to the colony to work as a worker. So, you're going to actually have to work out a path, and as a result, like trying to either make a nice big bumpy array of storage containers, or, finally bite the bullet and start using the medium storage containers. Like that was something that was kind of clear to me from the start. And those are sort of some of the examples that I'm talking about. But one of the things that's kind of neat about this is to, as more stuff is getting implemented inside of the game, you start sort of seeing all of these things fall into place, particularly for me, the things that maybe I didn't realize before. And then sort of saying, oh, okay, so that makes sense. So for instance, I really don't like giving up artifacts. And I've always had the view that artifacts are really precious things on Titan, and that the council is actually perfectly happy to separate, themselves from credits or, minerals or isotopes or whatever, because those to them are ultimately replaceable. But the whole idea of having founders create their enterprises has been so that ultimately they can have a means through which they are gaining these incredibly rare and scarce resources. So, the idea here is that you're playing into the council's hands if you wind up giving them too many artifacts. We'll see how. There's many updates to go where we'll find out how well that fits. But basically, now of course, because it's so expensive to gain this claim, and there's other things that I want to do, particularly time-wise, and especially on, let's say, some of the starts that are, have a lot of rebels, and I want to try and get things done quickly. I now kind of have a mental model for why I would maybe do this thing that previously I would kind of consider to be a representation of my mismanagement. So, that's an example. Like I've seen more cases now where I would in fact be willing to give up a resource, and it's mostly just so that I can get it quickly. So this will be for the tier 2 minerals. I suppose I should put something down for the isotopes. This is going to be a mess with where the generators are, but again, this is all building up to our tier 3 minerals so we can start replacing everything. Okay, the input module I'm fine with. Or actually, if we have a tier 2, then we can save some money on that, so... Oh. Okay, no, we do have enough fuel. Barely enough fuel, but it's still enough. So right here, we just want to get that minimal. We just want to get that minimal amount required to start getting tier 3 minerals, and then we can start sort of tearing down and building back up different components. And what I'll probably do is maybe switch to something that's a little more oriented towards isotopes. Although in the meantime, it might be an idea to get a spare fuel fabricator down. It's not like permanent or anything, but just something to tide us over. I should also start putting down some waste receptacles. It's a little crowded in headquarters, so I'm just going to put some on the edge here. I really didn't need to make those tier 2s, but they may be around for a while. I'd rather not use up my tier 1s. Okay. a surplus of both. So let's see if we can start getting some batteries down. Not really. I actually didn't plan this out as well as I could have. So I think I generally had the right idea. The problem is that the way I've constructed it now, I can't actually build any of the surplus stuff that I wanted. Which is fine. We'll just work our way up to the next stage. So only 5 more influence, and then we can start. Well, actually, sorry. I don't need to be completely wasteful. I can stick a battery down here. And a fuel tank. Which, again, kind of put us behind in terms of minerals, but at the very least we'll have something that we can... we'll have something that we can store. More importantly, Ayana will stop screaming at seeing the wasted power in Zethane. Okay, what do I want to be doing in the meantime? We've got 23 minerals left in the patch. Obviously, we're working our way up to isotopes, so let's find the richest vein. Looks like it's 21. Yeah. So we'll claim that in just a little while. And then I might want to keep a reserve. No, you know what? Keeping a reserve this early in the life of the company is dumb. Wait, why am I at 60? Oh my god, I could have got that so much earlier. For some reason I thought that was at 40. Okay, well I've got my 20, so there's my new mineral patch. I didn't want to start digging up the artifact anomaly yet because we have easy access to lots of lots of artifacts here through the ruins. And of course, if I really, really, really get short on minerals, I always have the option of dismantling this mineral input module. That will turn it into 5 tier 1s. I then build a replacement using tier 2. And that will essentially give me, in the long run, 20 additional minerals. So it's one of the reasons why I'm a little more comfortable doing this sort of stuff, because right now I'm just building it all with tier 1s, and these are eventually going to be upgraded into something. You know what? I never realized, I never saw what comes out the other end of those. That's neat. Okay, we've got our 50, so I can stop admiring the wonderful artwork, and we can... So we've got our tier 2 coming up, or sorry, our 2 to 3 coming up, so I will turn on these modules. So first thing I want to do is get an output module. So this is the minimum that's required in order to get the tier 3s. And then following that, I'll put like a waste module down, or maybe I won't even. No, I can put a waste module down. But because I'm going to be short on workers, what I'm going to do here is I'll put a isotope, sort of an input over here. And again, the priority is going to be on the minerals for sure. In fact, I could probably afford to dismantle this isotope right now because we're not going to get those for a while. This is just the start of the conversion into all the different parts. It might have been an idea, though, for me to actually power all this stuff, huh? So once this gets the power, I'll put a waste module just so that we can clean up after ourselves, and then we will start redesigning the headquarters into something a little more sensible, using kind of large versions of different. underestimated my power needs, though. And I need all of that live. But we do have the battery now, so... Oh, well, this is easy. I just turn this thing on. So we'll turn this on. Okay, great. We're sort of at an equilibrium now. That works for me. Nope, the waste is starting though. Okay, so what does a fuel fabricator cost us? So we've already got our tier 3 on the... Oh, sorry. There's one thing I'm probably going to want to do. So this one will allow tier 3 isotopes as well, just for expediency. Actually, I'll put tier 2 isotopes as well, just because this is going to be sort of the entry point for those. But we don't have any tier 2 isotopes, so I don't need to worry too much about that right now. Okay, so I should have my tier 3s ready now, and that means I can start building some fancy things in headquarters. So first thing, let's dismantle that fuel fabricator. I'm going to start by building the big generator, and then we'll build the fuel around things. Actually, does that make sense? Probably not. So we'll dismantle this and we'll build the large fuel fabricator, then we'll build the large generator. So getting rid of this one, I'll be replacing it with a large one. Then I can afford to get rid of the small one. We'll still have a larger net amount for our fuel, and I'll be able to see where we're at as far as the large generator is concerned. So eventually I'm going to replace these with waste receptacles, but right now they're full, so I can't really do that. This generator, was I right in the placement? Broadly, yes, but again, I think I'm going to have to switch the relay and the energy bridge. While we're waiting, how does the Zethane look? Eventually, the plan is... So the obsidian ruins are rather expensive. I mean, brilliant for high-value minerals and such. Perhaps... in another world, I would have saved up. And of course, this is... Well, okay. So one thing is, it's the sensor range, so, maybe I don't need to discover it, but I don't know. I like using the inert ruins. So I'll probably wind up claiming these obsidian ruins, and then either... I don't know, it's either the obsidian ruins and these ruins, or we'll have cleared out the isotopes patch and then the ruins here. But either way, a pair of fuel turbines. And I suppose the question is, do I generate a lot of influence first, or do I mine out the isotopes patch? The race is on. Okay, so it says we have a fuel deficit, but that's probably driven by the fact that we're still not moving our pieces where they need to be. How much you want to bet the level 1? Yep. They want more space overall. Okay. There's also going to wind up being a worker, or like a, I'm going to generate workers in this building, but I think I got to wait for that. So what that storage was all about was the fact that we still have, well, now it's 3, but we still had some tier 1 minerals. So it's nice to have, tier 1 minerals on the floor that you can sort of rely on to eventually be converted. But the conversion actually does need to happen. Like, this is the one, so generally, this is just my temperament for these kinds of games. I really try, so, this is gonna be such a nerdy way of explaining this, but in statistics, I learned econometrics, which is sort of not exactly statistics, not exactly economics. It is kind of its own thing. But there's the idea of small sample properties and large sample properties. And basically, small sample properties hold no matter what. The large sample properties are basically if you are dealing with a type of data set that has reached a certain size, and the problem is that there isn't a very ready definition for this sort of thing. You can have data sets that will show large sample properties with sort of tens of observations, and some of them you really do need thousands of observations for it to be true. But basically, things kind of hold in the limit. So you kind of say, okay, well, if you were to have enough data, sort of these properties would emerge, and generally it allows you to say a little bit more about your data set than you would if you were relying just on the small sample properties.
I would never want to
Blargosaur, thank you very much for following while I'm doing a really, really nerdy analogy for why I think about this stuff. So basically this is, and you could think of this if you've ever taken, like, I've not taken any business classes, but there's the idea of sort of like a discounted cash flow, right? So it's like, the dollars you get today are worth more than dollars even with certainty that you get tomorrow, because we like to spend money today. We like the option of getting things today. And while we might be able to plan with money in the future, it doesn't necessarily mean that we would value future money the same way that we value today money. But thank you very much. And I hope you are a fan of Industries of Titan, or if you are not, that you walk away a fan of Industries of Titan. Okay, so we're ready to dismantle this generator now. So we're not going to lose too much from the grid doing so. But yeah, anyways, so, and then the idea is that, if you want to try and work out, sometimes it's helpful to work out sort of a, you kind of let time go to infinity. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's not that you think you're going to live forever, but you don't necessarily know the date at which you will expire. So you work out a value sort of based on this, this value in perpetuity, let's say. So generally, the type of thinking that I have in Industries of Titan is usually let's assume this thing, let's assume that I have access to the resources as they're going to be in the long run. So that means that every tier 1 mineral can become a tier 3. So I treat tier 1 minerals as if they could become 25 minerals. That is a lot of mess. And there's lots of different examples that you can sort of give of this thinking. The problem with this type of thinking, though, is I run into problems like this. So right now I've got more tier 3s than I know what to do with, and I have some very practical problems of I just want to build something with 5 tier 2s. I'm actually full up right now, which shouldn't stop this from being worked with. So this would normally be the point in which I switch over to isotopes, except for the fact that it's actually a little bit more of a complicated problem. I want the tier 2 minerals, I just don't want the tier 3 minerals, because I don't have any place to put them. So what I will do, though, is I will turn off I will turn all of this off, just so I can preserve the power. But yeah, anyways, for better or worse, that's kind of the thinking that's usually driving me as I play this game, which is to say, it's clearly not true that everything is a tier 3 mineral, and it's clearly not true that when I build a structure, it's going to be there forever. But you will see, you know, my usual design is sort of already in here, and the parts that are the most permanent are the ones that have already been written, you know, already built in like tier 2 and tier 3 minerals. Actually, one thing I could do, because I'm not using this right now, I'd have to discard. Okay, we can turn this on. I guess I don't need a worker for this though. Yes, I do actually, because we need to disintegrate all that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to dismantle the. Or yeah, let's. Can I dismantle it? Yep. So never mind. But what I'm going to do, because I have this big surplus of tier 3, now I can convert this. I'll get a whole bunch of tier 2s all of a sudden, and I'll be able to put build the level 2 processor out of tier 3s. And essentially, that's kind of the way that I wind up. That's the way that I sort of wind up. I don't know, trying to. It's how I try to manage the resources, particularly in a stage where I'm trying to decide what the fastest way for me to get a lot of different resources that I'm looking for. You've been playing it for the past few days because you got it as a gift from a friend. It's enjoyable, but it's a little rough to figure out. You can see you have the same issue that you've been experiencing where trash is everywhere. You even have problems with trucks and smokestacks. Yeah, I mean, I'm not that worried. So I've deliberately ignored the trash because I have lots of space. It would be nice for me to have more receptacles, and I am going to work on that, but it's essentially just me trying to pick my battles, although I would be lying to you if I didn't say that garbage carpets were a regular feature. Weren't a regular feature of my enterprises. They very much are, and I believe that is actually quite a. It's kind of the welcome to Titan experience, I feel. You haven't truly played this game until you've had one like total eyesore of a factory. Early game defense, do you rush turrets or ships? In the early versions of this game, I used to do turrets, and they've made a number of changes to the game that I actually think make ships relatively more attractive. I'm still very fond of turrets, but I've actually been trying to force myself to do more. Force myself to do more ship things. I'm gonna kill my grid for a little bit while I switch these two around. There's a way I could have done this without like taking everything down, but it's just as easy. But yeah, at the moment I'm a little more ship inclined, although I still think turrets are very strong. It's just that right now, based on, like, given what the victory conditions for the game are, you need to go out and destroy the bad guys. And so, if you build static defenses, you're building to not lose. Actually, that's not entirely true, because, of course, you can buy the rebels out from under them. But the reason I don't necessarily do that is we hit our 60, and I don't need any new resources here. The reason I don't necessarily do that anymore is because the value, like the aggression that comes from influence, is actually quite a bit higher than it used to be. And so I used to have strategies that were a little bit more geared towards trying to buy out the rebels because the rebel turrets were very, very strong. And I don't really do that anymore. Normally for these kinds of games, you like to immerse yourself in wikis and guides and try to become experienced that way, but there's a pretty severe lack of up-to-date information. So, I don't like announcing stuff ahead of time. I was starting work on a big sort of help you get to know Industries of Titan game, and then so I did have a couple of delays. There's a bunch of stuff that's been delaying me. I also owe people some data things that I feel rather ashamed at how long it has been taking. But basically, there was a fairly decent response to an Industries of Titan oriented video that I did sort of on getting the basics down. So I'm maximizing the reach of my batteries here. Not quite ready to blow up the waste receptacles, but those are next. So that's not going to help you right now. Although if you have any questions for me, I really do like talking about this game, and I have been playing it for a while, so I would be happy to try and give, whatever pointers or opinions that I have. Of course, I am not the only source of these things, and if you haven't... Actually, you know what? Should take a second here and give you this link in case you haven't used it. Brace Yourself Games has a really wonderful and active Discord with plenty of people who play their various games. They also do Crypt of the Necrodancer and Industries of Titan. So if you're this is Industries of Titan and Phantom Brigade. So if you are a fan of either of those games, same communities there. But yeah, me personally, I'm going to be doing some more teaching stuff with Industries of Titan when I can find the time. And then the thing is that videos are not the same as wikis, and I'm sort of conscious of that. So in terms of things written down, I suppose probably Steam guides and the Discord are the best, best bets right now. But of course, the drawback is because this game gets updates once a month, and they're fairly substantial ones. Like this is the update where they added the tech tree, which has sort of been indicated a couple of months in advance. One of the drawbacks is that if you take the time to set up, this is the problem I ran into with the video series I was doing, which was it was very obvious that even if I just put like everything into getting those videos done, that they would have a shelf life of about a month or 2 months, and then the game would be different enough that I would be redoing a number of those videos. So what I did was I prepared a few scripts for some videos of things that I didn't think would change very much. And then what I'm doing now, once I get a little more confident in the new update, I'll be sort of filling in those last little gaps, namely just in terms of how the science lab is going to wind up working. And with any luck, it'll be something that'll be a bit easier to maintain than build in the first place. But yeah, if you've not checked out the Brace Yourself community, first of all, I was given a key for the game, and I am naturally disposed to thinking well of the developer. But that aside, I do like I think the wiki, the Discord that they have is a very good one, and I think it is very clear that they have put a lot of effort into like building a community and building an environment in which people get help, like in which people kind of have a reasonable expectation to like go in and have an active and and helpful community, which is obviously not something you can always take for granted on Discord. So if you haven't checked it out, that might be something that you find useful. So I'm trying to impose a little more order on the factory here. We are going to switch towards isotope upgrades now. Sorry, I don't know if I asked this. I was thinking of this, but I don't know if I actually said it. It sounds like you're fairly early on in your experience with the game, but what are your impressions of it so far? Is it? I guess because you got it as a gift, maybe you didn't necessarily have a particular set of expectations, but I'd be interested in hearing your impressions, mostly just because I've been playing this for a while, so I don't get to have that experience of playing Titan for the first time again. And I'm curious what people are thinking of the game, picking it up at a time when there's more in it than than maybe there was when I first started playing it. If you don't mind, I mean, obviously you might just want to, kick back and enjoy watching. But if you were inclined to say, I'd love to know. Okay, we're doing okay resources-wise, so at some point I should probably get to work on generating some income. I don't think I'm going to be getting any 80 influence anytime soon. And the rate at which I get artifacts out of this thing is pretty dreadful. Okay, let's unlock trading first. That way, if I break, oh, it's 10 influence for one artifact. Why did I think it was 20? Big fans of Factorio, RimWorld, Satisfactory, that kind of stuff. That's really cool. I've actually just recently gotten into Satisfactory. I've been watching a really good streamer who I like watching for Factorio, No Virtue. She's somebody who I found through playing Solaris. Is actually one of the streamers who was part of the Paradox kind of content creator Civil Wars. I haven't quite gotten a grip on Factorio yet, but I think that's probably more of a time thing rather than a like thing. And then, of course, RimWorld is one I like to talk about. Again, that's one where I own it now, and I've definitely had a couple of very enjoyable sessions with it. But one of the reasons I like highlighting RimWorld is simply because it's a Canadian game. As is Industries of Titan, so I have a natural predisposition towards highlighting the fine products of my homeland. One thing you've noticed you've been having trouble with, you think it was a crevice or a ravine that you built a power factory next to, and you were actually running out of Zetha. Yeah, so I'll just maybe clarify when you were talking about, I think you mean like a fuel turbine, right? So the game is fully simulated. So, for instance, like it's raining right now. If there was pollution in the air, the rain would actually be taking the pollution out of the air. And likewise with the Zethane, this wasn't moving. This wasn't moving higher before. Like over time, this crevice has sort of been leaking out a little bit. But it is definitely true that you can extract at a rate that is much higher than what is being generated. And there isn't necessarily a direct answer to it. I've actually found that's one of the things that can become quite interesting about some of the maps, which is how do you operate in a low, sort of like a low Zethane environment. That's a very different play versus some of the ones where there's sort of crevices everywhere and you've just got, top tier fuel turbines all over the map. One thing that people have done, so for instance, right now, you'll notice that I'm currently sitting on +2 fuel and I've got a whole bunch of fuel in storage. So if you are so inclined, one thing that you can say is like, well, in order to preserve the Zethane, like right now in my territory here, this is 2645. I don't actually know. It's just one large turbine, so I don't think it's that big of a draw. But one option that I do have is to actually turn this off and let the Zethane sort of recover. The other alternative is either blowing Zethane towards some of your fuel turbines, or of course making sure that your fans aren't blowing away your Zethane from the turbines that you have. So what's kind of neat is that once you start sort of seeing where all the systems go and all of the things that they do, there are some sort of outside of the box solutions that you might find for problems like that. But the most interesting one for me by far was the Pioneering Terraformer start, where I sort of felt like I had to learn a very different way of playing the game, because ultimately the resources were so constrained that I simply wasn't going to be able to kind of acquire kind of the same force that I had before. Oh, it's a factory with fuel things inside of it. You haven't looked at the actual buildings that much. Okay, yeah. So that's a big one. So if you build a factory with fuel inside of it, one of the things that you could probably wind up doing is sucking out too much zethane in that one spot. So one thing that might work out a little bit better for you is if you spread out your different fuel turbines, you may find that you have longer lasting deposits. You had a few annoying lost states that you had to learn from. One, you lost a power pylon that would have been powering your turret that was soon to be complete. You had no defenses. I don't think I've had that specific one, but I've definitely had some very, very important pylons that I see the rebels go towards, and I can just sort of cross my fingers and pray as they go through. So I'm definitely familiar with what you're describing. And then the second one that you started a turret upgrade around the 85% hazard level. It said that you had enough resources, but no matter what you did with your employee orders, they wouldn't bring the last couple of isotopes that you needed. So you hit a 100% hazard and had no defenses whatsoever. I believe if you cancel it, your turret will come up right away, but that's sort of kicking the can down the road. Obviously, what you wanted was your turret at the time that it was available. Now, I'm not quite sure what would stop them from delivering the isotopes, because there were definitely a couple of times in the earlier versions of the game where it felt like employees were not following orders. But I've noticed for the past few months that sort of seems to have been... I thought that was a thing of the past, so I'm not quite sure offhand what might have caused that. I should just check, have you seen the bug report form inside of here? So if there are some things like that you're noticing, it's fairly easy to be able to report that. You also will get an ID. So if you have other information that you want to communicate, you can do that in the Discord as well. But having personally used it, I can say that they definitely read it. And you may have noticed in the patch notes that there's a little indicator when a change has been made as a result of community feedback. So, sorry I can't help you with that second one, though. As for my own case, what do I want to be doing right now? I do eventually want to get that fuel turbine up, but I guess I should be building some more trash. Well, I should be building more trash, and then I should also be I should be making money. But I can't really make the money until I have the fuel turbine. And of course I also want to get I'll need a starbase before too long. Oh, sorry, a shipyard. So perhaps build that here? Or maybe here? It's going to be a big influence cost if I do it that way. These, on the other hand, get me artifacts. No! So one thing I know when I see idle employees, usually it's because I've assigned somebody it's usually because I've assigned people to one of these. In some cases, it can also be a result of like not enough storage capacity for certain things. So like I'm not able to move the resource I need out of the way to get what needs to be done. But I don't think that explains why isotopes wouldn't be delivered, though. Do you recommend using dedicated buildings over using factories with machinery inside? Well, I don't have... So one of the things that I like about Industries of Titan is that I don't have a lot of cases where I will say... Like, I won't speak in absolutes in a lot of cases. I mean, that's also just my natural inclination. But it depends on the circumstance. So if you take a look at... so let's take a look at what I want to build right now. I want to build a fuel turbine. Why do I want to build a fuel turbine? Well, because it's close to a crevice. The fuel turbine will get me... what was it? Oh, that's right. They say it's zethane absorption rate, so I'm not able to get the exact numbers anymore. But basically, I tend to find that I will build very large factories with lots of activity, and that will imply a certain a certain set of power needs. You'll notice that I'm actually already draining my battery. And personally, I have tended to find it a bit easier to go at the macro level and build something like an energy plant, which will get me 48 energy in one go, but at the expense of 12 fuel. Now, in order to do so, I have that construction unit cost of 200 minerals. That is a lot. And it's one of the reasons why I'm investing so early in being able to get tier 3 minerals. But as a sort of a counterexample, I'm actually not going to be doing this very much with the... So here's a perfect example of where things have gone kind of ground to a halt. So I'm going to turn off the mineral input module. And so yeah, in this case here, we're putting too many minerals out. Sorry, what was I going to say? Yeah, so in contrast, what does it cost me to build even a large generator? Well, a large generator is going to cost me 20. It's a tenth of what the large one does. So I do think that's definitely a question of the sort of relative maturity of a given company. Obviously, if you're in a... Oh, actually, sorry, there's one thing I want to check. Yeah, I got plenty of space. If you're just starting out, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do big buildings because those big buildings are going to have... They're probably going to be prohibitively expensive. If, on the other hand, you're generating a lot of tier 3 minerals, it can be quite sensible to wind up building some of those larger ones because essentially you are getting more of the resource you need in a single place. And so for me, that can be, that can generally pay off quite well. I'm just going to take a second here and prep. I think I can get a... So I'm trying to remember if I like putting it here or putting it here. I think I put it here. But yeah, in general, I would say if you can afford it, the buildings will facilitate more rapid expansion. Whether or not rapid expansion is what you want is a whole other question. They won't let me clear out the rest. This may not have been the smartest choice, but we'll get through it in a minute. I'm actually going to have a garbage floor in just a little bit. Not a garbage floor as in garbage carpet, but a floor dedicated to garbage. I would, however, like to start getting my work from home set up, though. There's only 3 isotopes left. I'd start building the factory for my employees right away, but I don't actually have the tier 2 isotopes yet. I'm a little unsure what the holdup is. Oh, there's no holdup. And I think I need a better spot for isotopes. Yeah, no problem. And again, I try not to... I'm going to guess that you probably are a little bit like me in the sense that if you like reading wikis about games, part of the fun is to learn some of this stuff for yourself, or at least kind of decide what approach you want to take to certain things. So I like, where I can, I want to try and give honest answers, but also not to necessarily speak in such a way that, it's like if I can, I would prefer not to declare ex cathedra like, thou shalt play, Titan my way. It's because, one of the things that's so fun about these kinds of city builders is the fact that you get to create your own thing and that, you put your stamp of authorship on it. And even the mistakes sometimes wind up being something that, they shape your city in an interesting way, and you have a story that you can tell about it. But with that in mind, like, also sometimes you just want to be able to play the game. So where I can, I try to sort of balance the the desire for a straight answer while also wanting to preserve the fun of being able to build your own thing in this game. All right, I'm pretty sure my workers will handle the waste receptacles on their own. I am curious what the deal is with the lack of isotope movement. So I'm going to say this will be where I base my fuel turbine. And I'm going to claim this for the storage. Maybe wasn't the smartest use of my resources because I'm not going to have a flow of isotopes anytime soon, but I'm currently sitting on a stack of 15. Oh, and I've got a bunch of tier 3s that I didn't appreciate. Alright, well, let's level up our headquarters then. And then what I'll do is I'll just take a lot of my influence and turn those into tier 2 isotopes. I'd been sitting on them the whole time so that I could get my factory built, and apparently they were sneaking the tier 2 isotopes under my nose. You know what? Let's just shut down. We'll shut down this whole production line, especially because we're going to be filling up some storage buildings. So at this point here, we're just going to be focusing on tier 2 isotopes for a bit. Yeah, no, it's a great way to do it. The one thing I've actually really enjoyed is the time contract mode for that sort of thing, because the time contract will force you to try, like, so you've probably noticed, again, very long-term thinking in this game for me. I tend to like to take my time, and I'm not particularly fussed. Like, generally I just try and build things in such a way that I will be sort of dictating the tempo. Some of those starts are harder for that to happen than others, and I think if you play on hard mode, you are definitely going to feel the pressure. At least I do. And one of the things that's nice about time contract is that what you're really trying to do there is maximize the value of your venture within a very limited period of time. And so it moves me away from that sort of asymptotic approach to Industries of Titan, if I want to sound like a complete wanker. But I don't know, it's like the only way I can really describe it, right? I'm not making it any easier if I describe large sample properties. But like, basically, the type of thinking that I will employ in a level like this is very different from time contract, where if I just stop and smell the roses, then I'm just not going to have something that's very valuable at the end, and my score won't be very good. Okay. Not a whole lot for me to worry about right now. I think really in this case we'll just lay the groundwork for the factory. I do eventually need to start thinking about the shipyard, but in an emergency I can stick it in this area. What I probably should be working on right now is the fuel turbine. So I need 2 isotope CUs for that. I am going to wait for another tier 2. And again, this is especially important when it comes to the isotopes, because I've already said that I'm going to be short on those for the foreseeable future. I do have like a couple of escape valves. The problem is that everything that I can do to get intermediate isotopes involves spending influence, and if I spend influence, that's influence that I can't spend gaining another isotopes patch, which is 40, not 60 influence. I don't know why I thought the other way around. Of course, the other drawback is everything that I can do to get isotopes also generates waste, and it's clear that I'm running out of space as far as the waste is concerned. So, although that reminds me, one of the things I did want to do... Oh, let's get that fuel turbine up. So I don't want to go too crazy with it, because I may also have to use this for... may also have to use this for power. But for now, let's we'll settle for a row of waste receptacles in the HQ. So it's 27. In order to upgrade it, we're going to need 108. We are not upgrading anytime soon. Oh wow, we're already at full storage. Interesting. It's tempting to claim this, but if I'm going to be doing any claims, it should be for another isotope patch. And 20 looks like our largest amount, so just wait for it to turn over and we're good. So, of course, we're in a very different place than where I was earlier. One of the problems that I had earlier was too many idle employees. At the moment, I actually have very busy employees, and it's taking a while for things to get done. Now, I made a choice earlier on, and I don't regret that choice. It was to not pay my employees, but that has a consequence now. I need to wait for a successful payday before I'm going to be able to add more employees. That's why I'm actually focusing on this factory here. And because I didn't do a very good job of anticipating what my labor need would be, I now have this situation in which I need to wait. Well, one thing I could do, I could use one of the tier 3 mineral or isotopes or 2 of the tier 1 isotopes. Generally, I like to use tier 2 because it's 3 construction units, so it's a quote-unquote waste of 1. But basically, I'm not too fussed about it. We do have the rebel threat coming up, but I'm reasonably certain we should be able to handle it. But essentially, in order for stuff to happen faster, I either need to turn off some of the tasks that the workers are working on, or the other thing that I could do is I could kind of get back to that realm where I'm able to sort of build up more workers. And yeah, again, in this particular case here, I'm a little worried about the rebel threat meter. But I think once sorry, I'm saying too many times. Basically, what I think is going to happen here is we'll sort of cross a certain threshold, and then I'm going to be able to get I'm going to basically be able to get where I need to go as far as my building. Maybe you'll have to try the weekly stuff, just mainly been restarting and learning. Do you have any favorite specialty buildings, the one that require artifacts to activate? These are fairly recent in the game, so I definitely like one that gives me fuel and energy storage. Like, this saves me from building a whole bunch of batteries and such. But I don't know. I'm still actually getting rather used to some of the new buildings. I don't think I necessarily have a favorite inert ruin yet. Okay. What do I do about the lack of tier 2 isotopes in my coffers? I am going to need to get some more tier 3 minerals at some point. Actually, you know what? We'll turn it. We'll turn this all back on for minerals. I don't necessarily need to do the. So this is to combine the factory. It's unexpected. So I probably want to have 200. Well, not just 200, because I also need to build the ship. Thing is, this isn't too helpful for me to build if I don't have 24 energy. So I think my best bet is to get my minerals where they need to be. Now this interests me. I'm currently generating +2. Fuel generation 0. How does that work? Oh, because I don't have a worker in it, right. Well, you know, I don't really need it right now either. What I do need, though, is a place for an energy generator. So it's looking more and more likely that I'm going to need to put the shipyard down here. Yeah, I'm not actually generating enough resources to feel secure. So let's turn off our artifacts extraction right now, because I have a feeling that's increasing my overall enterprise level, and it's not actually earning me anything that I need right now. So this is going to be where I wind up, well, likely wind up putting my energy generator. This is my insurance policy at this point. I don't have the energy for it, but... You know what? I changed my mind. I actually think I want to build it on these ruins. So I gotta wait on the influence, but we'll be fine. Wait, really? No tier 2? Well, I suppose that would make sense, actually. So again, I gotta change my priorities. So, I do still want to generate tier 3 mineral. Ooh, yeah. I actually want to generate a little bit of everything at this point. So we're going to speed things up just so my influence acquisition runs by. So I can't actually start. I can't start giving people what they need. Or I can't start building habitats and such in Factory 4 until I have the energy and the minerals to support it. So in this case, we're just going to let time go by so I can get access to a few more resources. One option I also have would be to start taking out some of these obsidian ruins, seeing as they give me tier 2 versions of things. Okay, so this thing, we're going to shut that off just because of the power needs. Yeah, the soundtrack is fantastic. I believe it's by Danny Baranowski. I hope I pronounced that correctly. But a contributor to, I believe, Crypto the Necrodancer as well as Super Meat Boy. I'm not 100% on top of my indie game composers, but I believe those are a couple credits that I can feel reasonably secure on. And I don't know. There's definitely a few things that I think are really interesting. So the founder of Brace Yourself Games, Ryan Clark, used to host this kind of Twitch show, but there's the archives on it on YouTube called the Clark Tank. Oh yes, this is another wonderful thing about Industries of Titan. Lots of puns. But I guess one of the things that's really interesting is that you get to hear his views on like what makes a successful game, like the idea of a game with a really good hook. And I think what's kind of interesting is if you take a look at it, you know, Crypto the Necrodancer has got an incredibly catchy soundtrack. Like the second stage, that like swing beat is something that I don't think I'm ever going to be able to get out of my head. This game, again, another wonderful soundtrack, but also an incredibly unique art style. And by the way, if you didn't know, photo mode. This is like one of the best features in the game. And where do we go? You even get to see Saturn. Although I haven't really explored a whole lot, so it's kind of just this island of light in a sea of darkness. But yeah, obviously this is an incredibly unique visual style. I believe the art director was brought on sort of based on a series of very popular tweets that he made with this voxel style. And the reason why I'm highlighting all of this is that the other game that they make that I really like, Phantom Brigade, different composer, but just a really, to me at least, a very attention-getting and sort of very appropriate soundtrack. So it's kind of neat to see a relatively small developer, you know, they're certainly not, you know, they're not Blizzard or anything, be able to just kind of get so much added value to what they're doing, and to be able to kind of create these atmospheres with, you know, resources that are not necessarily what you'd kind of associate with a, you know, a really high quality game. It's kind of interesting to me, at least, to be able to see a developer, in one sense, just deliver so consistently on it, but on top of that, to essentially have at least some of the people responsible for it be so open in terms of sort of what they think, like what they think they're doing is. So I also think there's definitely interviews with other people on the team, because clearly Brace Yourself is not just Ryan Clark, nor is it just the soundtrack or anything. Clearly all of these games are a number of components coming together and working really well. But with that in mind, right, like I have had some very unusual career curves, I've had an unusual career curve, and I've definitely had some unusual twists and turns in terms of what I think my plans are going to be and how things have turned out in life. But, you know, I'm going to put a fairly low probability to me running a game studio. You know, put like as many zeros after the decimal as you want, and then a 1. And basically to be able to, you know, appreciate this stuff as a player, and then be able to, you know, kind of hear from the people responsible, you know, what they're thinking or what they're doing, you know, seeing interviews on Industries of Titan, or seeing the interviews with Phantom Brigade. It's to me at least, it's a neat prospect, because one of the things I've really enjoyed about about Industries of Titan in particular has been the process of sort of getting to get involved with the community and sort of getting a chance to chat with some of the people behind the game and, you know, on stream and such. One thing that feels a little weird is how small the community seems with how hard they went on their advertising through Steam and Twitch. I thought it would be a bit bigger. Yeah, I don't know how the game is doing relative to expectations. It feels like they had a very good launch for the game. I do think that there is a certain shyness when it comes to early access games. And certainly the first response to Industries of Titan seemed to be that, and again, this is one of these cases where I didn't necessarily think that the comments were necessarily very fair, but there seemed to be a feeling, at least on that initial release, that there wasn't that much in the game. Now this might, you know, I may be colored because I got to play the game, you know, during the Epic time. So for me, this game has just continued to have more and more and more added to it. But if you have enough people in reviews saying, oh, there's not that much to do in this game, then people are probably going to say, okay, looks really good, but I'll wait until it gets out of early access. But the other thing too is, like, I actually just don't have any really clear idea of how many people actually are playing this game. I know I'm a small broadcaster, so I don't always take my viewership as an indicator of the overall favorability of the game. What I have noticed is there was a game that I did a how to play for that got unexpectedly popular. Like, it's still a video that is like my most viewed video on YouTube, you know, ages after I've made it. And I happen to know that game is still selling quite well. And every once in a while, Industries of Titan will actually break into that number 2 spot. It did actually take number 1 for a little while, but now it's usually in the second or third spot. And it's kind of interesting to see these little spikes, because it's sort of, that usually indicates to me that a bunch of new people are finding the game. But yeah, it's a, you know, I kind of only have my own little corner of the internet that I look at, so I actually really don't know how popular it is, or how many people are engaging with it. But I also, like I said, I wouldn't be particularly surprised if some people were waiting for early access to finish. But I think you said you had it's very off topic, but asking about good devs. Have you heard or played the Outer Wilds, not the Obsidian game, but the indie game published by Annapurna? I have. I did it on stream. Tremendously enjoyed Outer Wilds, but I have not yet played the new DLC that was recently released for it. Scrolls 9 by System Shock Games. Yeah, like, the thing that I hate about this is because I know the world turns out in funny ways, there's always that small danger that I will come to eat those words, and for whatever reason, like, somebody's gonna clip this thing where they're like, yo, look at Mr. Liar over here. Totally went off and made a Mr. Suffice to say, I'm not entirely sure my contribution to the world. I don't think anybody's going to benefit from me bringing a game into the world. I think there are enough very good people who have that under control, and I'm very happy to enjoy them. Outer Wilds is essentially your favorite game of all time. The DLC was very enjoyable as well. That's good. I'd heard from a couple of people that the DLC was something of a disappointment, which, needless to say, I was disappointed to hear. But there's actually a streamer who stops by every once in a while, Night Valiant, who is an incredibly big fan of Outer Wilds. Now, again, I don't have any money right now, so I have to go with either the Goshawk, the Gearfalchion, or the Harpagus. I think in this case I'm going to go for the lowest cost in terms of minerals, although I believe I could... Nope, I can't even afford all of them. But yeah, Goshawk DX 939. The small but reliable ship is a favorite amongst young corporations and packs a surprising punch. But I'm not gonna lie. Like before I did my current job, I worked in movies. I was a member of the camera department, and I can remember really clearly one of the filmmakers that really made me want to get involved in movies was Stanley Kubrick. So I am very fond of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and like I genuinely like it as a movie. It's not I like it because I feel that a person who is a bit of a film snob, should be seen to like a movie like that. But I like it a lot, and Outer Wilds I think did a very good job of capturing a lot of the things that I liked about 2001: A Space Odyssey. So that was, and had I not played Outer Wilds, I probably would have said to you, I don't think there's going to be a game that captures the feeling of watching 2001: A Space Odyssey. Clearly that is not the case. There is in fact a game that does exactly that. So that may not be the best analogy, but certainly the things that interest me in 2001 are present in Outer Wilds, or Outer Wilds definitely has some of the things that I thought made that a very memorable experience. I really need to start getting some new employees. Can't do that until we have... Oh, we do have space for citizens, so now we just need to wait for... the right ship. The other thing I'm considering is just trying to crew the ship. So I'm sort of serving two masters here in the sense that I want all my tier 2 minerals for... Actually, we're going to turn off the isotopes for now. And since I want my tier 2 minerals so that I can get the work from home setup going, so that I am making money and I can start getting more workers, but the more of those tier 2 minerals I use, the fewer components I'm able to build on my ship. Stellaris 2 by Chalk Studios. What would a good name for a developer be? I feel like you know... Actually, okay. Here is one gaming business opinion that I have, which is probably totally wrong, but as ruthless capitalists playing Industries of Titan, we naturally want to try and find a market for which there is very little competition, preferably one in which we could establish a dominant position and hold it. But if nothing else, we want to go into a place where we're largely uncontested, because then we can charge a surplus above what the thing might be really worth or what it costs us to make. And obviously games are a very saturated market. In addition to the fact that you have people whose livelihood relies on the successful production and sale of a game, and of course these are, they're professionals, they know how to do it, they've been doing it for a while, and so certainly as far as talent is concerned, they're almost always going to be better than you. But in addition to that, there are hobbyists who maybe just want to, a little bit like me, right? I'm not going to quit my job to become a Twitch streamer. But when I get hired to do something on Steam, or when I get a sub or something like that, I'm gonna, there's gonna be some money, right? Like I do declare something for this on my taxes. Let's maybe put it that way. You know what? Sorry, I'm going to need to pause for a quick second because I don't have my notes with me, and I wanted to work out a proper blueprint because we're really resource constrained here. So please give me a quick second. I'm actually going to take a second to refill my water as well. So I will be with you in just a second. I will put up the back message. Nope, not dinner. But yeah, I'll leave you with the music. But yeah, I'll be back in just a little bit, but I want to actually write this out and figure it out for myself. Okay, sorry about that. But yeah, so the probably wrong game business opinion. So, again, like, you've also got hobbyists that you're going to be competing with, people who don't necessarily expect to make a living from it. But again, these are people who are potentially putting something out there that you need to, you're potentially competing with. So the one thing that I think is in short supply, and I'm not going to argue that it's easy to make, but comedy is in short supply. There are funny games out there, but what's the last funny game you played? It's sometimes a hard question to answer. And like sometimes the answers are like really scary. It's like, oh yeah, The Curse of Monkey Island. It's like, okay, that's if you played something more recent, that's funny. And there are really good funny games out there. But I feel like there's a few reasons for this. One, comedy is very hard to do. I don't necessarily think that it's a little bit like saying that you can't learn mathematics, or you can't learn writing or drawing or whatever. I think with practice and applying yourself, you could probably surprise yourself with what you can do. Although again, we also need to keep in mind that there are conditions that make these things harder for some people to adopt than others. But the other thing is the question of, is it worth it, right? Like, if you're going to put all of that, there's some people who probably really like laughing and really like making other people laugh. And for them, it might be a little bit easier to do a funny game or to do something funny. Breath Edge, interesting. I haven't actually, I've heard of that one, but I don't really know what it's about. This is actually also my secret way of getting good recommendations. So, but yeah, like, for the other thing is that, at least as far as films are concerned, I actually think that there's a certain level of disreputability when it comes to comedy. So does anybody want to guess the last comedy that won an Academy Award? Like, I actually don't really know. Maybe Annie Hall? There's got to be a more recent one that got it. But this is the thing, right? Like, they're successful movies. They're ones that people clearly enjoy. Like, who doesn't want to laugh? That doesn't really mean that you get the kind of the respect that you deserve, I guess, for lack of a better term. Like, and if you're someone who, when it comes to things like what might drive, if you're going to be making a game for yourself, like, to a certain extent, I think it's reasonable that people want to maybe take themselves seriously. And if you take yourself seriously, like, doing something funny isn't necessarily the path to do that. And again, because comedy isn't necessarily a respected or award-winning genre, again, I'm speaking a little bit more in terms of film, but I have to feel that there are some similar impulses that might be driving it in games as well. But if you want to have this idea of doing something important, you may not necessarily want to do something comedic. Now, I haven't played Psychonauts 2. Psychonauts 2 might count as a comedy. I'm not sure. I will admit, though, I've been watching Brian on the Rocks, who's a Vancouver-based streamer and developer, actually. He's been playing a game called Unmetal, and I have definitely been laughing a lot watching that one. That is a very unusual but very funny game in my opinion. But yeah, anyways, so for me, like, again, I don't know if this is a good business take, but I think probably there is an argument to be made that one of the most underserved audiences in gaming, and I think a potential sort of untapped market is in fact the market for funny games. And that's one of those ones where it's like you know. Maybe it's not Battle Royale is the bad example because that thing's like making money hand over fist. But it's like one of these things how you know where like Battle Royales didn't exist and then all of a sudden it was like people were succeeding with them and so now they're making, lots and lots more of them. Obviously you want to try and find something like that before it becomes that thing. And I don't know. In my opinion, I feel like comedy has all of the traits that make it one of those things that's like really obvious when you think about it, but nobody actually notices until it becomes a thing. You can't take it. I haven't even heard of You Can't Take It With You. What year was that? Because I know Annie Hall was like 77, I think. 38. Oh, no. Annie Hall is definitely a comedy, and that definitely won Best Picture. I think, anyway. Also, hello, Nick Blasta. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it only won, like, Best Screenplay or something. I feel like there's definitely been a comedy film later than 38 that has won. But yeah, the other thing too is that comedy also in terms of in terms of gaming, it's also fair to say that probably comedy is not the same sort of genre as it would be in the case of film. Like, comedy does not immediately imply a certain set of actions, whereas a first-person shooter, you have an idea of what the game mechanics are like. So I am also kind of playing around a little bit with what we sort of accept as a genre in terms of games. Because obviously, you may, like, oh yeah, well, Stanley Parable is a good example. So, like, if you want an experience like Hollow Knight, and somebody says you should play the Stanley Parable, first of all, you all should play the Stanley Parable, but, if you come in expecting a Hollow Knight experience and someone recommends the Stanley Parable to you, you're probably going to be justifiably upset with them. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I still sort of feel like there's probably room for more funny games, and somebody's going to figure that out, and they're probably going to make some decent money doing that. Which is not to, again, that's not to suggest that funny games aren't being made. It's just, I feel that probably relative to what the actual demand of it is, I sort of think that there are probably fewer funny games being made than there should be. Like actually from what we were talking about, Outer Worlds is not a bad example. Like that's a game. Its most recent trailer, like, for its sequel, was really funny. So that's probably not a bad example, but that's also a very different scale of game than what I think most people who are, like, sitting down trying to figure out what they want to make. Like, I'm sure everybody would like to make a game like The Outer Worlds, but clearly not everybody is going to have the money to be able to make something like that. I'm waiting on the 80 influence to get the Obsidian Ruins, because that'd be really nice to have that sudden influx of cash, or not cash, of resources. So I brought my notepad for a reason. I want to try and figure out what my power needs are going to be. So we've got a We've got life support already, so that's going to be 1 energy, and then ideally I put 2 lasers on this thing, but we may have to abandon those just in favor of getting a ship out there. Let's go for an ideal. So 4 for lasers, 1 for life. So it's between 2 to 5 that I need energy-wise. And then I suppose ideally I'd have a medical pod, but the medical pod I think I can afford to like kind of turn on as needed as long as I have batteries. So with that in mind, let's say 5 or 6 in terms of energy, so a medium generator will cover me there, and that I can actually spend my tier 3s on. Again, keeping conscious of that rebel threat meter. They actually also cost 10, so... I don't know if this is the smartest choice for me right now. Okay, this explains a lot. We've got 1 worker kind of doing everything. So we're gonna pull these workers out of their existing extracting jobs. I should have done that a lot earlier. And we'll have 3 people just kind of dedicated to working with the resources we already have. Because as you can see, we've got 94 tier 1. You know, we've got more than enough as far as the isotopes are concerned. It's really just a question of getting the refining that we need out of the way. So what I think I'm going to do is I'll set up with our weapon systems first. Get that out of the way. Again, we're kind of relying on the rebels dragging their feet, but given the fact that we're also not acquiring a whole lot resource-wise, we should be okay. Oh, hang on. Get out of there. I also keep forgetting I do want to bring bodies onto the world. Oh yeah, I forgot. Employees are worth like a small discount to a full artifact. So one of the problems with what I'm about to do, it's one thing for me to claim the Obsidian Ruins, and it'll be great for getting all of these high-value resources. It's also potentially going to tip the rebel threat, because I'm going to have all of these high-value resources that go into the overall value of my enterprise. But I don't see how we're going to get those any other way, so let's see how it turns out. You can sort of see how I had a whole bunch of plans, and then it all came crashing against the reality of the threat meter. Although the first wave is actually pretty forgiving, so... If you're gonna be idle, I better not see... Ugh. Jostle them out of idle position. I could probably stand to have some cleanup happen. It'd actually be particularly nice if they pick up these tier 2s and such. is majorly off topic. Well, I mean, I've been talking about comedy films in the context of Industries of Titan, so I don't see how you could be more off topic than me. But you just heard from a reliable source that the entirety of the Twitch app source code has leaked, including payment information. So a password refresh would be a good idea. Yes, also two-factor authentication, although obviously cloning has been a bit of a problem in terms of circumventing that. The other bit of news from that, so the source code, so from what I understand, it's actually the like the version control. So apparently you are able to see all of the different like versions of Twitch, basically. Which I'll admit, like, I don't know where you find that leak, and I suspect that it has not been reported by outlets for a very specific reason. But the first thing I want to look at is what's the recommendation algorithm, obviously. Like, I want to know I want to know how people are finding the channel. But you know, my data nerdery aside, it's one of these things that it's not the gentlemanly thing to go peeking into that. Obviously, I don't know, I guess it's kind of the same dilemma that people had when all those diplomatic cables were released. Like, it's out there, but you know, you don't necessarily want to condone that sort of thing. Okay. Yeah, I can make this work. It's like finding Twitch's baby pictures. Yeah, so I guess now we get to just, you know, if it does actually wind up, should have taken a look at the disintegration. I suppose now we can just find, you know, some of the people who are still working there. It's like, oh my god, did you write a case statement with 50, you know, 50 different entries? What's wrong with you? Please don't do that, by the way. Just trying to think what the relative benefits of... So one thing I don't like about this pattern is that it's really easy to break this chain. So, you know, under normal circumstances, a large relay would be nice. Actually, that might just work. Holy crap, it does. I wasn't... Wow. This thing's a little stronger, so I'm able to work with it. I'm gonna get a cheeky fuel tank in there. Found mine on account of being one of 2 people streaming this when you're searching for somebody to play Industries of Titan. Well, I'm actually glad that there's 2 people streaming, because normally when I look to host someone, I can't find anybody to host for Industries of Titan, and I think that's a real shame, because it's I like this game a lot, and I really think that it's a great example. Like, I personally, I think I talk about twitchy stuff too much. But I have definitely met a lot of people who talk a lot about how they're not getting attention, and how if only they could get in front of people, like, they would be huge. And yet, you know, there's so many games like this, which, like, people are, like, practically begging, you know, to be played, that clearly have an audience for them that, you know, is largely being unsatisfied. But on the other hand, too, like, some of these people, like, their jam is Fortnite. Like, they genuinely really like playing Fortnite, and that is gaming for them. That is really the experience that they want to have, and it's not my business to tell them, you know, you shouldn't play Fortnite because, you know, everybody else is doing it. Like, if that's how you want to spend your time, that's how you want to spend your time. It's just, it's really hard to, hear those people talk about how they're not being, quote unquote discovered, and then, just to see these opportunities just lying there. Obviously you kind of want to kind of take the measure of what your ultimate goal is, let's say. But with that in mind, I'm delighted that there's another person playing Industries of Titan, and more importantly, I'm really happy that you decided to stop by here, because obviously I was not assured, and I was not assured that you'd be sticking around here. So it's definitely been very pleasant to have a back and forth with you. By the way, too, I know I've been talking about a bunch of sort of unrelated things. Right now, I'm just building up this, I'm just building up my ship. Again, this is a bit of a worry because this is a weak part in my overall energy chain, and so if they want to kill the crew, they only need to take out this relay to eliminate life support. But that's a risk. That's essentially a risk I'm willing to take on at this point. I don't really have a lot of options here. But yeah, despite my off-topic tendencies, if you have any questions or if there's anything you would like to know about the game, I am not opposed to multitasking. I am quite capable of still talking about this game. Well, thank you, Blogosaur. We're at 96. I do want to sort of crew up the ship at the last possible minute. It would be nice to stick a couple more batteries on if I can swing it. Nope, that doesn't work for me. But yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit like what you were talking about. Like, obviously, Industries of Titan's a really good game, and it's one of those ones that sometimes when you look at the amount of attention that it's getting online, you wonder where all the fans are. And I think it's probably more of a case of, so like, for something to be big on Twitch, you sort of need this sudden, you either need somebody who has a large audience to be playing a game, which is fine, that does happen. But the other thing is just simply there has to be a number of people who all at the same time are looking for that thing. And what I think has happened is that there are plenty of people who really like Industries of Titan and want to play it or watch it, but the kind of double coincidence of wants, somebody who wants to stream Industries of Titan and somebody who wants to watch Industries of Titan isn't happening as regularly as another game, or as some other potential games. And I don't know how the marketing and sort of overall sort of I don't know how the ecosystems of these kinds of games work well enough to make a prediction as to whether or not, early access is going to change that. But I do have a small suspicion that once the game leaves early access, that there might be an uptick in people, like not just for the full release of the game, but that it will probably be something that people are just generally paying a bit more attention to, and you'll maybe see a bit more consistent activity with. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that I like the most about not just streaming. Like, personally, my comfort zone is actually with larger groups, which sounds funny, but like just either, in a, like doing a seminar or something like that, or, doing a stream on Steam. I'm oddly enough most comfortable in a situation where there are more people, not less. And I know that's not true for everyone, but for me, it's definitely something that I've found works for me. But one of the really nice things about this particular format, in my opinion, is that you, as you say, like you're able to sort of, I don't know, take the measure of chat and be able to find out what you're interested in. And it's actually one of the things I really like about a game like Industries of Titan or some of the Paradox games, which is, you know, I'm perfectly comfortable playing this game at normal speed. There are sometimes maybe you want to speed things up, but I think the game is enjoyable. Like, it's got a great soundtrack. It looks beautiful. You got things to think about. And just being able to, you know, experience it and to either, you know, when game stuff is happening, you're able to talk about the game quite a bit, but you're also able to sort of shoot the breeze with chat when you're in between things. Because, like, we've been doing the same thing for a while now, right? We've been slowly building this ship. I've been trying to overcome some of my resource shortages. We're basically ready to launch this thing whenever whatever the bad guys want to show up. The threat level's going down because, again, the value of a worker is basically an artifact minus some small discount. So it's not surprising that rebel threat meter went down. But I'm not gonna kick the people off the ship in order to bring that meter back up. What I'm gonna do is just find other means of increasing the value of the Enterprise. But yeah, like, these types of games I think do lend themselves towards being able to have, you know, conversations with interesting people, for lack of a better term. And I'm definitely the major beneficiary of that, because for one reason or another, interesting people still seem to keep showing up, and it means that I get to hear some contributions. So as a perfect example, actually, Breath Edge is a game that now I'm going to take the time to look up. But also, You Can't Take It With You is not a film that I'd heard of before. And seeing as it's being listed as a comedy film that won an Oscar, I actually kind of want to look it up now. Although, again, it'd sort of be nice to talk about Titan stuff sometimes, so I need to be a little careful that I don't go too stream of consciousness. Okay, what I want to try and accomplish now that we've got a means of defense. Definitely want to get more bodies in the colony. I guess it's not a colony. Startup. So we'll build a monetization station. This is not actually going to get the power that it needs, but I'm just going to build my work from home setup, and we'll deal with the rest of that later. So why do you call it work from home? Well, there's work, there's home. So I just need another tier 2 to stick that relay down, and we'll have enough power for everything. So that'll be 2 pods worth, so we can have up to 4 inhabitants. And then basically this will actually be the first building blueprint that I do. But basically we're gonna fill this full of habitat pods, monetization stations, and we'll finally be able to start paying our workers, which means we will finally be able to make more workers, which means we are actually going to be able to do the things that I built all the infrastructure for. This is a challenge I sometimes run into, is that I build these plans, but I don't measure what I'm going to need to get to them particularly well. On the other hand, I am playing on normal difficulty, so the penalty for doing so is not very high. Although I'm now feeling like a bit of an idiot for... Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. We'll release these workers. This gives it a chance to sort of do all of its charging anyway. Not sure I want to turn off these lasers, but maybe turn off the medical pod. It's just they're charged now, so I don't want to mess with it. Basically, once this thing gets up to like 80, 98, 99, then I'll turn the shipyard up. Oh yeah, I gotta name everything too. We'll do that later. I have a hard decision I gotta make soon. Conversion capsule costs 6, so I can spend some of my... Okay. I think I'm gonna wait for the 99. I hope I wasn't planning on building anything. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I've not played enough RimWorld to know that that's a thing in it. So I'll turn off the conversion capsule because I can't. So like if I turn it on, it'll say no citizens available to convert, and then once I do have citizens, they're going to say you didn't pay your employees. You're not allowed to make any more until you start paying them. I was wondering if the fact that it I didn't count as having as much garbage would have raised the value of my business. It seems that it didn't for one reason or another. Now this is going to suck because everybody's going to take a really long time to move everywhere, but I do want to move the garbage storage to floor 2 of headquarters. And then eventually we'll build the smokestack, but the smokestack's not a really high priority right now. Oh, yes, yes. I see exactly what you mean by that. I think the blueprints are a start to solving that problem, but I don't think it's a perfect solution to it. Because the big problem I have is that, like, I've played this enough now to know roughly the shape of some things. But you're right, like, if you don't have the resources in order to be able to build a given building, it's a little tricky to work out exactly, like, what spaces you should leave open. The good news, you do get the full refund amount when you do say, okay, you know, I'm not going to use this thing here. I'm, by the way, going to take this inert ruins mostly because, you know, I don't need more resources right now. If anything, I need my existing workers to claim my existing amounts, and by claiming these ruins, I'm going to be able to just add to my reserves. This will also be good for fuel, so when I get a chance, I'll grab that one as well. But yeah, I genuinely don't know if that's going to be added to the game or not. I know I think the building blueprints was a much requested but hard to implement feature, so I was a little surprised it actually wound up in this update. But I don't know if they've announced anything as far as what you're describing. But you're right, that is actually a really helpful tool. I like use it pretty much every time I play RimWorld, but I'm garbage at RimWorld, so I probably don't use it properly. Okay, well, got enough to keep working on my little home here. It'll also give me a chance to put down some more waste receptacles when the time comes. I think I'm going to build the habitat pods before anything. I still need to make enough money to be able to pay my workers, but being able to get enough space to put people on the, you know, on the moon is sort of what I need. Oh, we're at 99, so I got to get my workers in there. So again, that's going to go down as the workers come onto the ship. Oh, looks like these things aren't active anyway. So I do expect to see this number go down because essentially okay, so maybe I should explain how this works. You have a total value for your business. It's kind of your score in the game. I don't think it tells you in the pause screen. It does tell you if you lose, though. And that's going to be based essentially by the stuff you have. A little bit like you'd value, so like if you look at the balance sheet of a publicly traded company, so if we look at like Electronic Arts, you can see exactly how much it has in terms of things like buildings or, you know, unsold inventories or whatever. Although I'm sure with digital, there's probably not a whole lot as far as, you know, with digital, I'm sure inventories doesn't quite mean what it used to. But notice here that it used to be 8, now it's 7, and the next body we see come in here, this number's going to go down. Basically, I believe the way this works is that when you have an employee and you put them on a ship, that employee ceases to count as part of your business. So what that means is, see, now it's 6, so we'll wait for the third one to come in. So you definitely don't need to pay for them when it comes to credits. And as you can see here, it's gone down to 98. And the reason is you can actually make some estimates in terms of what the you can make some estimates in terms of what these things are worth. I used to have this written down somewhere, but I don't have a lot of it. I don't have it immediately available to me, and I'm not entirely sure it really helps anyone for me to look that up right away. But essentially, I think artifacts are something like 4 million or something like that. Let's just say that is. And then if you a worker is 3,900,000, let's say. And so essentially what I'm doing is by adding 3 employees to this ship, I'm taking 3 of the second most valuable resource out of the total value of my business. And so that's why you're seeing this threat meter waver. So for instance, let's say I'm like, okay, come at me, bro. Well, what I could do would be to start extracting the artifacts. And that would be a way that that would be a way that my enterprise value goes up, and that provokes the rebels to attack a little bit earlier. Am I a big sci-fi fan in general? Yeah, I'd say so. We actually wind up talking quite a bit about sci-fi on Stellaris, which I tend to play on Mondays. I do need to confess that as a whole, I could stand to read more nonfiction than I really do. I tend to wind up reading a lot of I tend to wind up reading a lot of either textbooks or kind of current affairs or history, which are all excellent things to read. Like I don't regret it, but the fact of the matter, it's like wanting to do creative stuff. Like if you don't, you're always going to have an excuse not to draw. You're always going to have an excuse not to practice Blender or painting or whatever your thing is. And any given moment, you're probably going to say that, I just have more important things to do. And then you're going to wake up one day and you're going to realize that you have not done that thing that you have a passion for. So I'm trying to get back into it. I've actually recently been reading Anathem by Neil Stephenson, which I'm really enjoying. It's an older one, but something about people who live in monastic communities that are locked away for, a decade or a century or a millennia seemed appropriate. I actually didn't get it specifically because of the lockdowns, but it was an oddly appropriate choice nonetheless. But yeah, I think the biggest problem here is that while I would consider myself a very big science fiction fan, and that would be both, that would be across the board. That would be games, that would be motion pictures, that would be books. I am also probably underread in terms of some of the major sci-fi works. So for instance, I own Foundation, and I'd really like to read Foundation before I watch the new Apple series, which from what I understand is a very good series. But I have not actually read Foundation, although I have read Man in the High Castle, and I love that book so much. So the other thing that's weird is the science fiction I have read can sometimes be very niche, whereas some of the more well-regarded stuff is stuff that's still new to me. This Monday is Canadian Thanksgiving. Yes, good point, Glum. So I'm probably not going to be streaming next Monday. Thank you for pointing that out. And hi, fantasy. Cool. Yeah, actually, fantasy books I'm quite bad at because I've read some like Dragonlance stuff. Like I've read stuff that's tied in with Dungeons and Dragons, and I am the last person in the world who's gonna look down their nose at someone for reading something like pulpy or something that's tied into a franchise or whatever. But clearly people are not necessarily thinking about like a Forgotten Realms book when they're saying that they are a fan of the fantasy genre. So that's I would definitely say, while I'd feel reasonably comfortable. I mean, I was on a podcast with somebody talking about sci-fi stuff, so it's clearly that I don't have a problem talking about sci-fi. If somebody sat me down and said, "It's like, what are your favorite fantasy books?" I would probably have to sit and think for a bit. But one thing I actually really want to read is Terry Pratchett. because that very much seems like something that's right up my alley. And again, it's just one of these cases where, you know, there's only so many hours in the day, and unfortunately, you know, I've never been given an indication, and I know that's obviously not what you're talking about. Just, you know, I've got my, I kind of know what sort of creature I am, so I know roughly what I think is going to appeal to me. Now here's an interesting question: why is this fan going, but not that one? Oh, because there's an occupant, and there isn't an occupant here, I bet. Yeah, so now there's an occupant, now there's a fan. Smart. You really enjoy magic systems, and you like seeing how different authors implement their magic systems. Mistborn's a very good one. Oh, thank you for the recommendation. Actually, so, I wouldn't be able to fit, I wouldn't be able to pass a test on this one, but one of the books is Mask of Apollo. I bet I have it here. Just a second. Mary Renault. I don't know if I quite put it under magic, but I think it's if I recall correctly, the way that the gods are handled in the game Sunless Sea is very much inspired by how Marie Renault did it. So that would be one, particularly if you're into sort of classics like ancient Greece. I think that would be an author you might want to check. Assuming you don't already know. I mean, this is one of the problems about me recommending authors, is that what's new to me might be sort of old hat for everyone else. So, it's kind of like me, like, obviously, so, you know, obviously this is such a hard one for me to deal with. Like, if I were to know that someone had not experienced Douglas Adams, you know, of course, like, I'd run to the nearest used bookstore and buy them a copy of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And I was like, you know, it's like mandatory reading. You gotta experience this. Don't leave the apartment until you do. But I also know that if I were to approach, you know, a certain type of nerd and I were to say, hey, have you heard of a little author named Douglas Adams? You know, I'd get of course I have. Like, what the hell do you think I am? Kind of a response. So because I sort of know that I'm filling in a lot of gaps, I'm always a little cautious on my recommendations, because I don't know if I'm recommending something that everybody's like, of course I like this person. It's like, you like sci-fi? Have you heard of a little guy named Ray Bradbury? Like, obviously, that's, you know, I don't want to offend anyone just because it was new to me. Oh, can I spell out the author in chat? Sure. Sorry for the pause in the game. That should be it. I think the book that I read was Mask of Apollo. Maryrena. Yep, and the book I have is in fact The Mask of Apollo, which apparently was a former library book from the Oxfordshire County Council, oxfordshire.gov.uk. To renew this book, phone, you know what, I probably shouldn't say that phone number out loud. But yeah, former library book, nicely preserved in some kind of plastic shell. Actually, here I'll read you the back cover, because we're waiting for the show to begin. Let's do a launch. In a vivid recreation of ancient Greece and its legendary heroes, The Mask of Apollo tells the story of Nikaratos, a gifted tragic actor at the center of political and cultural activity.
You're still here, Council Puppet. Haven't you learned your lesson? There's no room for Council sympathizers on this moon.
I hope we're prepared for this, Founder.
Oh, we are.
Let's show Zorn what we can do.
Although I probably should turn on all my weapons. Oh, prepare for launch completed. I wonder what that was. Okay, I'll get the advertising out of the way. The Mask of Apollo tells the story of Nicratos, a gifted tragic actor at the center of political and cultural activity in Athens 400 BC. Wherever he goes, Nicratos carries a golden mask of Apollo, a relic and a reminder of an age when the theater was at the height of its greatness and talent. Only a mascot at first, the mask gradually turns into Nicratos' conscience as he encounters famous thinkers, actors, and philosophers, including the famous Plato himself. So obviously, this is not the sort of thing that's... it's going to seem a weird recommendation for somebody who says that they really like fantasy, but I think the depiction of the gods, particularly if you enjoyed the game Sunless Sea, you'll probably see some parallels there, and it might be an interesting trip down the beaten path. Off the beaten path, rather. Brent Weeks is another one that you can think of at the moment. His Night Angel trilogy is very good. Cool. I'm definitely always interested in book recommendations. Manually disabled, no energy. Well, clearly the no energy can't be true, although there's no reason not to turn on the medical pod. Alright. Let us dispatch the light of Rhea. Ooh, did they change that color scheme? That was a really neat little transition. Okay, let's see what we're up against. So one possible answer here. So the first question I want to ask is there a way to cut off their power? They don't really have batteries. Oh, actually. So let's see. This might actually do the trick. So then the question would be, if I do this attack, is there a way for me to try and cut off a few more of the batteries? I suppose if I were to take number 1 like that. Yeah. Then the problem is that they repair them and they're able to... Well, it's a process. I mean, the other thing we could try and do is just straight up take out the gunners. Looks like we're close to doing that already. I'm gonna let nature take its course here. I don't think I'm gonna specifically target them. So I think that's 2 who are in... Okay. Now it's 2 who are wounded. So it's pretty important that I get the... It is pretty important that I get the sort of the business up and running. If I don't, great. Okay, so there's only one crew member kicking around. Oh, that's a shame. I really thought I hit them there. So the big challenge that we run into now is that if I want to repair this ship, I'm going to need money for that, and we're currently not generating any. It's already looking better than using tunnels, since you can disable it via... Yes. So part of the fun of the ship-to-ship combat is definitely figuring out the puzzle of like what's the weak point in the design. If I'm not mistaken, and I definitely could be on this, I really hate miscrediting people for their effort, but I believe kind of the creative lead on this, Andy Wynn, is the one who's responsible for the layout of these ships. So I'm assuming that there's probably a very specific. Well, I don't know. Like maybe he considers every time a business folds, like that's a win for him. So maybe he designs these things to be as hard as possible to beat. But I have a feeling that there's probably a sort of a plan behind these things. This is kind of wasteful on my my artifacts, if I'm completely honest, but I don't think it would hurt to get. This is only 2, so let's activate that. And then with my leftovers, let's grab some isotopes. And finally, let's get that power relay down. Excuse me. Okay. I'll explain the whole for those of you who are not familiar with this setup, I'll explain the whole logic once I've constructed it, but I think it should be apparent. So basically, the distance between habitat pods and monetization stations is minimized. I get full coverage for all of the power. This is essentially the way that I maximize my. This is essentially the way that I maximize the revenues from different work. As always, it was great to see you next. Oh, thank you very much, Delves. I hope you have a great one. Sorry for sneezing into the mic. I actually have a presentation for our central bank that I need to. Sorry, you didn't need to know who it was from, but it's in Europe, so it's I got to be up early. So as much I do want to kind of try and run out the clock, but I do actually have an obligation, so I may need to wrap it up somewhat soonish. But like it's better than layouts that you've seen where they just try and shove as much. Yeah. So somebody did kind of give me a challenge saying like, can you get enough? Like, can you get this many things inside? And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I can. So this factory doesn't look like a whole lot. Well, especially with the garbage carpet. And there's no reason that conversion capsule should be on right now. This will turn into something truly magnificent. But the problem is right now I don't have anything remotely close to the workforce that I need to make this thing work. Actually, you know what? Screw it. I'm proud of it. So let me see if I can find the tweet. My crowning achievement as a content creator was I made a factory that the Industries of Titan account tweeted out, and it made me feel accomplished and good. Hey, Index Gnome, how you doing? Oh, come on, Twitter, really? I'm trying to access it through Edge where I'm not logged into. All right. I'll open Chrome. I'm committed to it now, so I got to share it. You're probably going to hear like 100 YouTube videos load in a minute. Hopefully it's nothing embarrassing. This is also like an old tweet now, so you know, I gotta get new material. Oh yeah, I'm wondering whatever happened to the Landfaller battleship. For those of you that like this sort of thing, there's a construction kit. Oh, here we go. Here we go. This is probably my peak as a content creator there. Oh, is it no longer in there? Yeah, there used to be a battleship that was sort of a pre-sale, but I don't know if I don't know if there was an interest in it or not. So it doesn't seem to be on the store anymore. That's a shame. I thought it was a really good idea. But obviously if there's no demand for it, there's no point in continuing on with it. Anyways, that's a factory layout that I did that I think people really like. But that eventually this factory will become that. But it's a long
You and I both know why you won, Founder. You take the Council's blood money. One day, there will be a reckoning, and you'll get the punishment you deserve.
Thank you for crushing that little pest for us, Founder. Zoran Gorak is a deluded leader of a pack of freak failures. He poses no threat to the Council. Make sure you crush him the next time he comes around, Founder. Well, the most embarrassing part of that was people were asking for permission to use that design. And I'm like, last I checked, there's no, like, patent on, like, you know, on the designs of cities and stuff like that in games. Like, obviously... Why is this guy running in place? Either way, I wanted to empty out the ship. Like, we don't need this thing quite yet. It'd be nice to do some exploration. I just have other priorities right now. You know, clearly there is far more credit to be given to, you know, brace yourself for creating this game in which you can have these kinds of experiences. You know, the fact that I just found a nice way of aligning all of the modules maybe isn't the sort of thing when it's like me asking for permission to, you know, to play the game after I bought it. It's like, yeah, that's kind of what you do, right? But there is, like, so one criticism that comes up for that design is basically what winds up being this little area here. And it sort of says that it uses an exploit. Honestly, the original version I did of this didn't even have the waste modules. It just let the garbage fill up in the middle there. I just decided that I like the look of having the waste modules. At the time that screenshot was made, you couldn't actually have sort of two waste modules sitting beside each other like that. So you notice that kind of I went for this little, you know, diagonal look. But honestly, like, you could put anything. You could put fuel actually, I guess technically the efficient thing to do for this would be to put two large fuel turbines in the middle here, because you're going to be generating the waste anyway. So why not get some extra storage out of it instead? But you know, whatever you do in this middle area here, like, essentially acknowledge that no worker is going to be able to access it. And it has been designed in such a way that the assumption is that the level 2 processors in the middle are going to be just spewing garbage out onto the ground. Yeah, well, it's like, you know, if somebody feels that it's a cheat to put waste modules in, then just don't put the waste modules in. The thing is still a very efficient layout. You know, other than the fact that you probably need a few more workers dedicated to garbage, but, you know, there's no rules for this, right? Like, you know, you play the game you've been given. If you don't want to do so, so it's like me with the turrets, right? I could definitely build turrets, and some of my earlier cities had a lot of turrets in them. But every once in a while, you want to try something new, and in this particular case, I decided that I wanted to get a little bit better at the ship-to-ship combat, and so by not building turrets, I'm essentially forcing myself to build a certain type of defensive structure at a certain point in the game, and essentially make sure that I'm able to hold it, which is not always as easy as it seems. I'm a little intrigued in the fact that my workers are not picking up these high-value resources. I'm not sure what I did to make them scared of it, but... Oh, we've already got the waste showing up, so let's... In fact, while I'm at it, let's get someone to move the minerals. I don't care so much about the isotopes. I can handle not having that for a while. But I do need somebody grabbing these minerals as quickly as possible. And I'm going to do one of my rare speed-ups just because I'm actually at the time I would have stopped streaming today. But I do want to try and get the work from home set up, ready to go. Now, one thing that would be kind of nice would be to know exactly how much I need to pay to repair this ship. It's only 15 HP, so I suspect not much. But I do need to make sure I have 320 by the end of the day to be able to pay my employees so I can make more. So I'm actually going to wait before... I pay for anything. I am, however, going to continue building my magnum opus. One of my magnum opuses. I have a few other factory designs that I like, but honestly, between the factory that I had, like the manufacturing, and then the this work setup, those are like the two that I really need. I do have a couple that are a little more geared around power, but you've noticed that I probably prefer, generally for those, I like making fuel turbines and power plants. I suppose one small advantage now that... So one thing that happened in this game is if you build a power building, you actually need to have a worker work it. Whereas if you build a bunch of power generators inside of a factory, you have no workers are required for that to generate power. So to a certain extent, if you want to maximize sort of your productivity on the basis of workers, there is something of an argument to be said that you shouldn't build those big buildings. On the other hand, though, you wind up, dedicating a lot of time and resources towards building certain structures and so on and so forth. And I don't know, I think the cost of having like one worker handle the power plant is not that big of a deal. I also personally like doubling them up. So it's not... I don't find it all that big of a burden to have like one worker generate something like, I think if you combine these two, I think it's 48 on its own, so at the minimum 96, but I think it's something like 108. So you get like a free 12 power when you combine the two. There's our activated radar. The biggest thing I want to do right now, and this is something I was hoping to do before the stream was done, but I think I got a little too chatty. I really did want to build a science lab, but obviously I ran into the problems in terms of just getting my workers in the places that they needed to be. Right now I just have a worker shortage, so I want to deal with that first, and then once we've dealt with that, we can start extracting artifacts again, and it'll make a lot more sense. We'll also just generally wind up generating more influence and such, so as a whole we'll be in a better position to get more of everything. The other thing that's nice too is because, and this was partly by choice, like one of the reasons I chose this is that there's not that many rebel camps. So this is one that, in principle, we can be done relatively quickly with. And then as a result, we'd be able to try, well, basically we'll play the way Blargazor does, do a new start every day. We're definitely going to continue this playthrough. Like when I wrap up, I'm not gonna start a new save when we play this game next. But trying to think if it makes sense for me to grab one of these patches or if I should try and get something expensive. Well, I guess the patches are expensive. I think I'm gonna treat myself to some artifacts. And we're also ready to start converting some people, so we'll start repairing the ship. We're going to jump into the wrong factory. Oh, but what I am going to do is... Oh, not quite ready. No, you know what? This still works. So the one improvement that I'll make on this as I'm able to afford them is I'm going to put more waste receptacles down. But I don't think I want to make that part of the blueprint because sometimes you might want to put fuel storage or something else. Factory-wise, though, I want to make more garbage. So let's turn on the conversion capsule, and now we can start converting, basically... Use the floor as storage to turn a good old-fashioned citizen's insides into outsides. I'm a little weirded out at how many minerals are just lying around on the floor. There's a way you can kind of force them to get picked up. If you build something, the different workers are going to, they're basically going to pick them up by default. But I do have an assigned worker on moving minerals already, so the real pain is that there's just so many tier 2s just waiting to get picked up there, so... There you go. Put it all out. And we'll be doing that essentially as many times as we possibly can. Oh. Sure. I didn't exactly want to spike the artifacts on it, but I'm probably going to do it sooner rather than later. I obviously don't care that much about the battery drain here because I've got so much storage capacity, and when I'm done... So first thing... If I'm not using this ship, we've already repaired it, I can get a pretty big boost to my energy just by turning this off. Same way that you turn off your turrets if you're not using them. This can sometimes cause sometimes your resource shortages will creep up on you if you don't have a clear idea of what's going to be needed when you have a call to arms, but that's just kind of on you to make sure that you keep it all, all straight in your head. But, I don't know, like, in this case, I think it makes as much sense for me to keep keep in the black as far as energy is concerned, although it's not that big of a deal if I were to run a small deficit, because we've got essentially we could maintain that for 1,000 days, and we'd be, well, maybe not 1,000 days, but 1,000 ticks of whatever the -2 is, which, needless to say, is a little bit more than I need. Is there anything else I want to try and do? I mean, a bunch of conversions, obviously, but that's something that we can do over the course of the next playthrough. Still not enough storage, huh? I'm going to let them pick up what's already there. I don't think it's a good idea for me to try and chase... I'm not going to try and chase them to get this stuff built. I think I'm going to let that happen on its own. Because this is done... Well, okay. Let's get the waste receptacles just so I can sleep soundly. And then I'm going to go to HQ and see if we can fill a few more of those, because I'm assuming... Oh wow, these are still not used. Fair enough. I guess cleaning waste hasn't been a priority. And not enough space to drop the waste. I wanted to put a fuel tank here, but unfortunately this waste receptacle has been in the way. So, other than the fact that I would like to... Other than the fact that I would like to try out the new science tech tree, and obviously I got a little too tied up in the preliminaries, I'd say we're in a good spot for this playthrough. I mean, 2 rebel camps isn't all that much to be worried about. What I'm thinking a little bit more of is just what opportunities we have around us. I'm not 100% sure whether or not we're going to be able to mine this mineral node or not. If we do, it's probably going to mess with the with just the, you know, the commercial area here, like the residences and the offices. So I may want to find an alternative for minerals anyway. The good news is that we are surrounded by quite a few of them. So we've got this patch, 3 that we haven't used here, a ton sitting on the ground, and then if we need, we can start pulling some of these out of the ruins as well. And of course we have a 3rd level for the headquarters, which is going to expand our territory, and so we get to see what's hiding in these as well. If we expand sufficiently far enough, and of course we will do so to grab the ruin monument, it's a pretty sensible move to also expand out to claim the 3 artifact anomalies. So we're going to be doing pretty well as far as, you know, feeding the research machine is concerned. And then, you know, in the worst case scenario, there's a couple of extra mineral patches and all of this here, but I'm pretty sure we're going to find another mineral node. If we can't exploit this one, we'll find another mineral node without that much trouble. And then, of course, at some point I do want to find where the rebel camps are, but right now it's more about me sort of securing my position, making sure all the conversions happen, and just generally getting out of that funk I found myself in terms of just trying to get stuff done. Even now, like, we're still trying to get people to move all the goods where they need to be, and they're obviously so slow inside of this factory. One thing that I might actually wind up trying for myself at some point is just completely demolishing this factory and then making specialized ones next to the nodes, the isotope and the mineral node. Last time we tried to do that, though, is it took quite a bit of time, and obviously you need to have a lot of workers for that. So I'm not going to rush that approach just because it's good on paper, but challenging in practice. And on that note, actually, sorry, free stuff. I think I'm going to call it there, because I still haven't had dinner. So, what's the plan with Industries of Titan? So, on the second Wednesday of every month, the local game dev collective puts together their presentations. Is that why we didn't do a lot of Industries of Titan? Anyways, the one challenge with the Wednesdays are that it is something that there's a local event that sometimes gets in the way of being able to stream it, and then I do tend to wind up playing the game that's gotten the most recent update. So what does tend to happen is I will wind up I'll sort of wind up playing a little more Phantom Brigade than I'll wind up playing Industries of Titan. So I'm gonna just see where basically I'm gonna see where we're at. If I feel that I haven't been doing a lot of Industries of Titan, and particularly if I haven't been messing around with the tech tree, like this is something I've been waiting months for. So I really want to see that, and I might be messing around with the schedule a little bit. But in general, Mondays for Stellaris. Wednesday will be one of the Brace Yourself games, whether it is Industries of Titan or Phantom Brigade. And of course, if you ask me really, really, really nicely, I might even one day try Crypt of the Necrodancer on stream. I'm probably not very good, though. That probably is not well suited to my style. And then Friday, it's kind of been open. We'll most likely be getting close to the end of Wolfenstein 2, or the DLC for it, or we may even finish it on next Friday. If I do, I want to try and knock down a few things that I've played before, so I'd really like to do some more Boyfriend Dungeon and finish that. But the plan will then be to maybe try and add some extra Phantom Brigade or Industries of Titan days, or if nothing else, we can start exploring some other games that people have wanted to watch me play, and I haven't had the time to do it. Thank you very much, Blogosaur. Yeah, I mean, also too, like I'm not that hard to find. Like you can find me on Twitter and stuff like that. So if for whatever reason, I mean, I'm also in the Brace Yourself Discord, so if you ping me on there, I'll probably get the notification. If I'm at work, I usually put all my notifications on silent. But if I'm playing another game or if it's in another means, we have a rapport now. So if you want to chat Titan, if you got a question that's burning and you don't want to wait for a stream, feel free to send it my way. That goes for everyone, by the way. But I know Blogosaur is new to the channel. And to close it off, sorry I'm denying you all the music. I'm just going to take a quick second here to bring up Twitch, and we'll see if we can find someone to host tonight. My original plan actually was to try and go for a 4 or 5 hour stream. I don't normally plan that, but unfortunately, I'm really, really hungry. Oh, hey, there's a lot of people streaming this. Well, okay, relatively, quite a few people streaming it. So we've got DadCon and the Gamester NL. Now, normally I like doing the smaller broadcaster, but I don't know if online means they're doing a test or what. So, also, DadCon's description here says, a guy who plays mostly strategy and survival games and prone to spout random information. So I have a feeling that this might be a little more in line with what you're all expecting. So hopefully you all enjoy DadCon. Obviously, I can't vouch for them, so I only say that because I had a terrible case where somebody was in the middle of saying some extremely inappropriate things for Twitch or anywhere in the real world. And I talked them up because they were somebody who had actually been nothing but decent inside of my street. It might have even been a mental health thing that was going on, but one way or the other, it was terrible. But with that in mind, I want to scare you off from it as well. So I don't know what DadCon's thing is. Please treat them well. If nothing else, I just want to continue to support Industries of Titan. So until next time, thank you very much for watching. Some of you I'll see on Friday. The rest of you, I'll see you perhaps in a week for Industries of Titan. And just a reminder, because chat was good at reminding me, Canadian Thanksgiving on Monday. I do normally try and take holidays off for myself, so I may not do Stellaris on Monday. But as usual, any decisions I'll kind of announce on Twitter. Twitter is kind of the most up-to-date place in terms of what's going on. If I'm late on a stream, I'll say something there. If I know I'm not going to be able to stream, I'll say it on Twitter. There's really no good way of communicating it on Twitch. So anyways, on to DadCon. Have a great night, and we'll see you next time.